0.4 million candidates undertook their KCPE exams and about 1.2 million did the KPSEA exams, grade 6. National Dialogue Committee will make public its report on Saturday, ending months of push and pull between the two sides. The committee, co-chaired by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, sat late into the night negotiating the 5 thematic areas it had set out for deliberations. Ichung'wah and Musyoka announced that the team has agreed on the framework of the report and will walk through to tomorrow to compile the final document.
We are now towards the tail end, negotiating and agreeing on all the nitty-gritties of what will constitute our report, and we can announce to the country that we shall be able to have a report adopted and given to the country, released to the country on Saturday.
The issues are heavy, and because they're heavy, they may look a little heavy on our faces, but we're doing everything we can.
As the El Nino rain is expected to continue across the country, questions are increasingly emerging about the 10 billion shillings allocated by the national government to deal with the effects of the rain. This is after the national and county governments emphasized that they do not have funds allocated to deal with the effects of El Nino. It should be noted that in the 2023-2024 budget, the government allocated 4.4 billion shillings to the Disaster Management Department, funds that the governors have now been asked to use to deal with the problem. This comes as Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua seems to be confused about whether the government allocated money to deal with El Nino or not.
There has been a misconception that some county governments have been waiting for the national government to give them money for this intervention. We are therefore a little bit shocked when we see governors complaining that they are here to receive money for El Nino from the national government. Such money is not forthcoming.
However, the Deputy President has said that the national government has provided 2.4 billion shillings and is ready to work with county governments to help the affected citizens.
They are expected to use emergency money within their financial provision and to reallocate money within their budget to intervene for the people that they govern.
Council of Governor Chairperson Ann Waiguru, however, says that county governments have not received the 10 billion shillings from the national government, adding that it actually owes them 32.76 billion shillings up to the month of November.
To date, we wish to state and clarify that county governments have not received any allocation from the national government to go towards mitigation measures for El Nino. As a matter of fact, counties are owed a total of 62.58 billion from the equitable share that is yet to be disbursed as follows. 13 counties are owed 10.17 billion for the month of September. 27 counties are owed 19.64 billion for the month of October. And finally, all counties are owed 32.76 billion for the month of November.
The Kenya Pipeline Company has expressed concern about the growth of Tanzania as an alternative importation route for petroleum products. The company says higher costs associated with importing oil through the northern corridor could push Uganda and other landlocked countries to the port of Dar es Salaam. Kenya Pipeline estimates that it would lose 2.6 billion shillings per month. Not only that, other organizations such as the Mombasa port and the Tax Collection Authority may also be affected. This comes just 1 week after the Ugandan parliament passed a law to allow the country to buy its oil through the port of Dar es Salaam instead of Kenya. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you're willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to, she's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it is corruption, whether it is murder, whether it is petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
Good morning. With bits of rain coming down this morning, again, we will see a situation where it does get sticky with traffic here and there. But for now, it looks pretty good. If you're coming off the Thika Superhighway, traffic is not going to be an issue for this moment. As we get closer into Thursday, we definitely then will see a build-up. Coming out of Westlands, you're all right as well. Uhuru Highway from the junction of the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out through towards the city is looking good as well. Even on Jogoro, there's really not much happening right about now. Still early. Let's see what happens as we progress into Thursday. And we'll be here for it. Let us know as well from your side of things. Spice FM KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's 11 minutes.
The only way.
How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Thursday, the 23rd of November 2023. Merry Christmas and Happy Justice Thursday. Ndu.
Yes.
Otherwise,
we KCP natoka leo bwana.
Wamesema ni leo?
Atupumui.
Huyu mshe alikuwa amesema next week.
Confusion. Then in the night they just slipped it in. Shwa. I said we are going to South Sea, New Midhiani House.
Mshe alikuwa amesema next week we're releasing.
Next week ni leo. KCP ni leo.
Shona mshe ustazi shule. Ni leo.
Atupumui.
Don't worry. Don't worry. It has been done and it has been done well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you already now you know the Nini number, the
Index
USSD
number.
The USSD, you know the USSD. As soon as Machongo just says good morning Kenya, sends.
Yeah.
Nah, she's done well. Yeah. See, we sent a success card.
That's it. Bora success card imetumwa.
Yes. Na tukasema hard work plus diligence
equals to
minus fear equal plus prayer equals to success.
Yeah.
Bas.
Kwisha.
Yes, that was a big enough prayer. Siti. Otherwise yako?
Mimi niko fiti.
Kauko poa, niko poa.
Mimi niko poa.
Is that a song?
Kauko poa, niko poa.
Oh, okay.
It's Nyeri the storyteller. Yes, it should be. Kauko poa, niko poa. Then there's another song, Niko poa, by Major, when Major was creating a name. Major and somebody else. Yeah. And there was, who did he do that song with? Ednah. Ednah would know. Niko poa. Anyway.
I'm very glad you're not asking me those questions because I don't even know who you're talking about.
Major story yako nilipata. Something like that.
I'm very glad you're not asking me those questions because I wouldn't know.
I honestly don't know who those people are.
When Major was minor.
Fundi Konde, I know.
Fundi Konde? Haya, charaza wekelea moja ya Fundi Konde kwenye Santuri.
So lost.
Kwenye Santuri. Sahani ya Santuri. You know what sahani ya Santuri is?
Sahani is plate.
Okay, so guess sahani ya Santuri.
I have no idea. I'm thinking Santorini.
Music.
Vinyl, record player.
Oh, like a record?
Record.
The vinyl thing.
Yes.
I have one actually.
You know that song that says Majengo Sienditena? You know that song?
Majengo Sienditena.
Oh,
Majengo Sienditena.
Yes, I know that one.
Majengo Sienditena.
The way he sings it, now you get it.
Eric, I see you, my dear. I have seen you.
You get it now.
I'm gonna get it.
Bas. And then you know that one of Ajali Haikingiki.
Ebu sing it.
Dereva combo.
Yeah. Taxi driver. Taxi driver, nikomboleshe gari. Niende Nakuru. Nikamwonea na Niana Maniasha. Asha. Aliniambia nifike Jumamosi. Nami sitaki kuvunja promisi.
More people knew how to taste toast, rather. They knew how to toast properly.
That's where they left. Tulipofika ule Naivasha.
Yes, gari.
Gari letu lilipata pangchari. Ikawa lazima tutachelewa.
Hey,
friends.
Super stuff, eh?
My friends. Hey. Anyway, so that is Fundi Konde.
Thank you very much. Now I know.
Huyo.
Fundi Konde.
Huyo.
He works very lyrically.
One of Kenya's greatest.
I love it.
One of Kenya's greatest. You know, actually, we've had some very, very good musicians in this
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
If they were in America,
they would have been multi-billion.
Yeah. Where? Big
Then,
time.
At least now we know. Malaika we know.
Yeah.
And Safari. What's that thing called? Kenya inchi yetu. Kenya mzuri. Kenya.
Jambo.
That
Jambo.
one. I know that
Kenya mzuri yetu. What? Oh yeah. We get there eventually.
You know, it was long in coming. The next time we had someone singing such a song or crooning such a song was when Eric Wainaina did his thing. So that was a nice song.
And then, actually, he also did Tausi Ndege Wangu.
Yes. Tausi Ndege Wangu.
Ndege Wangu.
Ndege. We are forgetting the words, but yes.
I know the song.
You know.
And there was that TV series. Soap opera called Tausi.
Tausi, yes.
Yes.
You know what Tausi is? Bird, feathers, flowery, open like this.
Close.
Like colorful.
Male.
Open tail.
Peacock.
See?
It's like, what? Is it flying? What are we talking about? I was going to say bird in flight. Parrot.
Open feathers, tail.
Yes.
Like this. Color.
Open like this.
Colorful. Anyway, let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. It's Thursday. It is Justice Thursday. Okay? So tomorrow, the Chief Justice will be delivering the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report. It's called SOJA. Yeah. And ahead of that, we will be talking about how Kenya is changing the face of justice through a people-centered approach. Remember when Chief Justice Martha Koome took office, she came up with a strategy, and it's called STAJ. Yeah? STAJ.
Yeah.
Social transformation through access to justice.
Yes. Sir.
So we'll be joined by her Chief of Staff, Rose Washuka, at 7 a.m. alongside Dr. Sam Muller. Sam is the CEO of the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law. It's called HIL.
Today you're there with acronyms. Okay.
HIL. The Hague Institute for Innovation of Law. They join us at 7 a.m. for that conversation. And then at 8 o'clock, let's go to Estonia and bring in two people into the country. One of them is called Auntie Ramo. Auntie, A-N-T-T-I. Ramo, R-A-M-M-O.
See, Auntie.
See, Auntie.
Auntie.
Auntie Ramo. And see, Auntie Riot, Auntie Ramo. Okay. And he is the founder and CEO for a company called Star Cloud LLC. He will be joined by Annie Sild, and Annie is the CEO of BCS Digital Skills Academy. They'll be here to talk to us about digitalization of education, a case study from Estonia and what Estonia have done towards that. Hiyo ni kitu kubwa sana. Live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. As kawaida, tell us about the weather. As kawaida, and then we do like that. As per
Kawaida.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, we're looking at rainy conditions. Cloudy in Nairobi at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's cloudy at 14 in Nakuru, going to highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 23. And mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 16. It's 14 and cloudy, rain as well in Eldoret with highs of 23 and lows of 14. Into Mombasa, where it is partly cloudy at 24, highs of 30. And we'll see partly cloudy conditions going to highs of 31 in Malindi. Kisumu this morning is cloudy at 19, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 28 as well in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 18. And looking into a cloudy Kampala at 19, highs of 27, while Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 25 with highs of 30. Johannesburg is clear at 19, highs of 31 and lows of 19, while Mogadishu is cloudy at 26 with highs of 29. It's 10 degrees and clear skies in Addis Ababa. 23 will be the high and lows of 8. Lagos is mostly cloudy at 27 with highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kinshasa this morning is cloudy at 24 with highs of 30. And Beijing, afternoon, 1 degree, highs of 4 and lows of -7. It's 8 degrees and cloudy in Paris and 10 degrees and cloudy in London. 10 degrees and cloudy Wednesday night in New York. Coming into Thursday, highs of 15 and lows of 7.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
I'm in, baby, says Ken Orinda. Well, good morning to you. Clinton says, good morning. We see you. Let's talk in a minute. Moy's Bridge is well represented. Alibaba Koske Esfa says, good morning. Good morning, says Robert. And Keddy Ivan says, good morning, catching you from Kampala. And I love the show. Well, we're glad to have you here. Yes, Tobias, when major was minor. Abraham Lucorito is also tuned in this morning. And Flyman Yuhodiot is tuned in from Nakuru. Savo Jones is also tuned in this morning. And so hello to all our folks who are tuned in on Facebook today. Is it a competition? Because David Weed says he's online and he's the first one today. And he's tuned in from Bahrain. Locked in. Karibu sana. Good morning, CT Ndu, Eric and Edna. In Malawi, lies we say Zabodza. A lie is a Zabodza.
But a lie is a Zabodza.
Yeah. CT, can you say Zabodza?
I can. Zabodza.
Zabodza is a lie. Meshach Jenga
Why does it have
says
such a long name?
Zabodza for lie.
Zabodza. Why can't they just say
lie?
Yeah. Wongo.
Zabod.
Or za.
Za. Or fake.
Or stew.
I'm sure they'll take it under advisement.
Okay.
CPA Ruben says, good morning, tuned in from Meru. And Meshach Jenga is tuned in from Toronto in Canada. Good morning, Latiff Nduciti, listening from Muthiga in Kikuyu. And Justice Thursday, Twendekazi, have a great day and time. That's Sir George Gashoiri Karibu Sana. From Utawala, Chris Sadede is tuned in. And hey, Muscatizi from Iceland. We're listening to the three musketeers from Iceland, and that's our Toti Bishop says it's Thanksgiving. Yes, it is. It's the
in Iceland.
No, it's Thanksgiving in the Western, in the US especially.
Okay.
Which the third Thursday of November.
They have a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
A
classmate of mine who informed me that this morning.
Yeah. So then they do the thing tonight with the turkey, blah, blah. Remember the turkey was that bird, the strange bird that they found when the pilgrims landed. And they said, what is this thing? Can we eat it? And so they slaughtered it. It was actually on a Thursday when they landed.
And they gave thanks.
And that's where it all came from. This strange bird.
So what did they stuff it with on that first day? When they landed by the beach?
I don't know that they stuffed it that very first day.
That's it, Thanksgiving. On that hangs a tail. The turkey that actually has a tail is one of the tails. But that's a story for another
day. It has more than one tail. Interesting bird, this one. Good Good morning to CT. Eric tuned in as well. We see you, Joe Mungai. Kibaki left a working nation. Uhuru left a broke nation. Ruto will bequeath a broke, talking nation. Hey, Joe, why now? Jennifer Tenny says, good morning, my favorite presenters. Good morning, my fellow Kenyans. Moses Nyabura is tuned in this morning and said, is there a possibility for a joint media brief with Dr. Ruto before the end of the year? We have many questions we would like to ask him. Well, there's a request for Santa. Gilbert Kirui says, good morning, tuned in from Lafay in Mandera County. Interesting name. Greetings, Watu wangu. Maryland is locked in this morning. We see you, Shules. Agri Momanyi says, ananyesha shughuli. I can't read that Kiswahili, man. It's tough. Sijui bwana. Let's read the other end of this statement where he says KCPE will distract us from the government. We hope the results will be a true reflection of the candidates' efforts. Indeed. Patrick Musembe is tuned in from Monrovia and says Hapa tuko sawa. Peter is tuning from Athi River. Joel Odondi, your cousin, says good morning, watching from Kansas City. I never knew the one truthful man in Kenya also speak from both sides of his mouth about El Nino funds. They confuse all of us. So. Good morning, fellow Kenyans. Tuning from Kakamega County is Jibril. Brian Otenyo is tuning from Abu Dhabi. Charles Dongo says, good morning, new day, new dawn. Enjoying from Kuwait. Good day to you. Simon Intiadsi. Good morning, tuning from Kino. Good to have you here. Monica Slave tuned in as well. Kesh Danny is tuned in. Good morning, my favorite radio people. Tell CT, if the cold is too much, akunywe chai kweli.
Bas, umesikia?
Mimi kwisha sikia.
Alrighty.
Love you guys from G-Town. I'm not quite sure where G-Town is, but let's just go with it. Good morning.
Githurai.
It's Githurai, not Garissa. Okay.
And not Georgetown.
And not Georgetown. The 2000 says, good morning, good people. CT, many people have questions for you this morning. Kindly ask CT, what advice would he have given to his younger self? Now, you may think on that for a minute.
I don't have to. You know, the younger self resides in me. He's not a visitor that comes every once in a while or periodically.
Well, you write a letter to.
No, we. Yes.
You often talk to yourselves.
Oh, we do, and we reminisce. Even this morning, we're reminiscing.
Oh, you did? You had a chat?
No, we have a chat actually every morning.
Yeah. So now, maybe he wants to know what that tete-a-tete resulted in.
Yes, but what advice did he have in mind?
I wonder.
Maybe he'll tell us in due course.
Oh, and Basire has a few words about the DP. Well, we say good morning to you. Josiah Oyengo says, Ndu, yesterday you referred to USA elections being managed with volunteers. Yes, I did. Volunteers who have ethics. Yes, we talked about that as well. He says an American caught cheating on his spouse will confess and resign from the public position. True. Desmond Ortiz says, good morning. Today I've seen CT laughing to the core. I guess it's I enjoy that moment too quite often when I see it. David Kirenga says, leo huko studio muko na Friday vibe, kwani mumelipwa wadao? Ndio swali unatuuliza saa hii asubuhi. Steve Otieno says good morning. Joseph Otima says good morning. I love these songs. It's a great way to start a TBT. Tuned in from Eldoret. Quite a number of people online this morning. I'm being asked when will Ruto visit Iceland. Don't worry, we are traveling everywhere. Iceland is not too far from the imagination, my brother. It can happen.
Do they
Just
have money?
have faith. Do you have money? Do you have something? What are you selling beyond ice? We can come.
We have oil.
We have oil. Bas, Quisha. There's something we can do. Don't worry. And so long as a plane can land there, we can come.
I'm going to visit that country. It's one of the countries I wish to visit.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody saying tuned in from Kansas and also tuned in from Texas. Daniel Salaton says, let Ndu sing, let freedom reign. Let freedom reign from the hills of the waters of the great Mississippi. Things like that. I'll sing, don't worry. Tomorrow, I promise, I will sing. Dave Lubale is here, Peter is here, John Miner, Victor Bado, Amimo Kwambo, Emmanuel. We see all of you one by one. Everybody, so great to have you in this morning. Karibuni sana.
Everybody, welcome. Buona City Muga. We're still in Namibia, aren't we?
We are still in the Republic of Namibia.
Okay.
Envy and green grow from the same stalk.
Envy
and green
grow
from the same stalk.
Okay. Stalk ile maize stalk. Okay.
Let's talk.
Not stock.
Si stock ya duka.
No.
I'm a stock ya nyama supu.
No. I'm a bird.
Okay.
Not stock ile inaleta watoto.
Hapana.
Si maribu stock.
Si maribu.
Okay.
Okay.
Na hii green si mboga.
No. Green hii. No. Mboga ni greens. That's the plural. Ndio mboga. Greens.
Green ile kala ile.
Eat your greens.
Greens, not eat your green. Kama unakula green ile envy sasa.
Sawa, headlines.
Okay, front page of the Standard. Puzzle of El Nino billions. The government set aside 10 billion shillings to mitigate the effects of heavy rains. However, county governments have been told to adjust their allocations to help victims. Governors are up in arms, but the deputy president is adamant as the big boys trade blame Wananchi are suffering. So the question is, where is the money? Show me the what?
Money.
Thank you very much.
Money.
Ndio hiyo. Nauliza iko wapi? Rigathi Gachagua, who is the deputy president, said, "We are therefore shocked to see governors complaining that they are yet to receive money for El Nino from the national government. Such money is not forthcoming." Ati what? Okay. Anne Waiguru says, she is the chair of the Council of Governors. We note with concern public utterances that suggest that county governments have received funds from the national government to support the mitigation of the devastating impact of the El Nino rains. Akuna what? Akuna pesa. Why candidates are shunning UDA elections, but why now? Reporter exposes shock losses in Uganda botched oil deal. Analysis shows Kenyans will lose billions if they do not offer neighbor incentives to return. The report by Kenya Pipeline Corporation further shows how the deal was skewed in favor of Kenya. Can you see why M7 is not happy? Police run into headwinds in Jenga case. We know that the case went to court the trial began. Officers have failed to link minor Jenga to any crimes, while weapons picked from his home were not linked to the people arrested. So 1 + 1 here does not equal 2. About 35 witnesses are lined up to testify. If you thought that 10 billion moving was a problem, Treasury has also said that, we are being told on the front page of The Nation how Treasury gifted a firm 5 billion shillings for air. Yani ile air hewa. Gifted. And here for nothing. Air. A 2009 tender to build an alternative data recovery center in Naivasha, which little known Misort Africa won, and which was initially estimated to cost around 800 million, has now ballooned to 5 billion.
From 800 million to 5 billion shillings.
Yes, please. In a botched deal that brings into focus the frivolous manner in which public projects are implemented. Azimio tax cuts to wait, Dongo tells talks team. The talks team, formed by the president and opposition leader, will make public its report on Saturday, even as National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njogan Dungo says the proposed tax cuts cannot be implemented immediately. It's not going to happen, sorry. Shakahola is on the front page with a story, an exclusive interview from a girl who talks about escaping from Shakahola's grip of death. Unlike the 429 people plus 40 who've been found dead, Salama Masha, whose name in Kiswahili means safe, is able to narrate the horrors she lived through as other cult members succumbed to starvation and butchery of the worst kind. Ruto's being urged to move junior secondary to secondary school to save funds. That should be fun. We'll look at that story, which is on the back page. And exam season ends with the final KCP results to be announced this morning at 8 o'clock.
Okay, Business Daily. The big headline today is KCB guarantees in G2G fuel imports are 515 billion shillings. That's what KCB Group has disclosed, that it has cumulatively guaranteed fuel import purchases worth 514.96 billion shillings since the start of the government-to-government deal, revealing its might in supporting the arrangement that started in April. The lender said yesterday that the amount is equivalent to 85% of all the letters of credit issued under the deal, in which Kenya imports fuel on credit from the UAE, meaning that all the and Saudi Arabia, all the banks involved have so far guaranteed about 605 billion shillings. So KCB is the main guarantor in this one, the one that issues the greatest amount for LCs. And they have a photo here of the group CEO, Paul Russo, as he was releasing the 9-month financial results yesterday. Court rejects plot to stop 357 million shilling graft case against KRA chairman. KRA is Kenya Revenue Authority. The 557 million shillings corruption case against Kenya Revenue Authority chairman Anthony Mwaura, his wife Rose Nyeri, and former Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko was yesterday thrown into limbo after the prosecutor walked out of the courtroom. Nimeenda. Principal Prosecution Counsel Alex Akula threw the trial into a spin and declined to lead a witness to give evidence after trial magistrate Eunice Nyoto rejected his application to adjourn the matter. Your Honor, would like to seek adjournment because I am not adjourning. Come on, even nimeenda. Following the move, the magistrate marked the case as closed and directed defense lawyers to file their submissions on a ruling on whether they have a case to answer. Because the prosecutor has walked out, the magistrate says, all right, so I think prosecution, tumefunga your side. Now defense, can you
defend
provide your submissions?
From there we know.
Inakaa kama game.
Somebody.
Now, because of that, now this case will basically just terminate on technicality.
On technicality. That's what.
Mwaura, Nyeri, and Sonko have been charged together with 9 others and 5 companies for allegedly embezzling 357 million shillings from the county government of Nairobi through dubious contracts.
It doesn't end,
In a ruling, the trial magistrate expressed her concern on the pattern adopted by the ODPP in seeking adjournment for the case against this. In this case, she noted that the DPP office had abandoned the case by employing what she termed as unacceptable methods to frustrate both the court and the accused whose rights have been compromised. She's like, no, these two tantrums of yours are basically harming the accused. If you have a case, present a case. If you don't have a case, I consider it closed. You have no case. Can we move on? Kenya is spending a record 72 billion shillings on China debt. Interest that Kenya paid for outstanding Chinese loans more than doubled in 3 months through September, pushing repayment to a record high 72 billion shillings. City. It's 23 minutes to 7. Tuambie headlines, Star.
Yes, top right-hand corner in Till Green, Ruto inspects houses as Murkomen reveals plan for new airport. I want to talk about this new airport.
Okay. Where is the airport?
See, just at JKI.
Okay.
It's actually
the Greenfields project.
Green, yellow, green, purple, blue, I don't know. But nonetheless, 89 million shilling house at Center of Ethics and Anti-Corruption, Oparanya Battle. There's a house which was bought in Karen. That was the cost. There's an issue. Nyeri snubs MP summons over... Nyeri, not Nyeri. Nyeri snubs MP summons over 170... 17 billion oil row. Blah, blah.
She didn't go to parliament?
No, please.
No, neither
she said
did,
she was immobile and...
Neither did...
Churchill will go today.
Churchill is meant to go today.
Yes.
Jerry alikuwa faende jana.
Lakini amesema ako immobile.
Kwa sababu ambazo singeweza kuziepuka. Tafadhali naomba mniwe radhi. Have you heard a Swahili?
No.
Bwana, hali haikuwa
hali.
No,
hers. Yes, hers. Yeah. It's quite smooth.
Hali haikuwa hali jana. So, yalioko leo ni ya leo. Na tutayaona, sio? Mount Kenya MPs claim Mungiki is back in full swing. They would know. Former Mungiki leader, Maina Njenga, denies the emergence of the dreaded outlawed section, says it died many years back. That's a different story altogether. No let up. Road now a waterfall. Mourners forced to trek. It's, every single day, just when you think you've seen the horrors of the effects of El Nino, you see more. Right.
My friends, Abdullahi Alas, our friend in Wajir, Mandera, has sent me some photos here.
So you've seen water everywhere.
My friend, a vehicle that just got caught up in the water, imechoma gasket na kila kitu, it's being towed. the vehicle that was towing this vehicle gets stuck in the mud. So now the people have just to get into the water and
now you need
waist deep.
An earth mover to tow.
To try and tow this. My friend, it is just...
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And then just to hear a deputy president saying, "Tumetoa 10 billion."
You know,
let's do the traffic. So.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, so still at the point where a little bit of traffic moving here and there. It's actually not too bad. We'll see some movement on Jogo Road. That's just about the size of it as you get then to the city via Landis. And also some hold up happening on the Thika Superhighway coming through to the Pangani underpass. Apart from that, folks are making their way into the city and out of it without too much of an issue. We'll probably see more movement coming round to the top of the hour. But let's be here for it just in case anything does come around. Remember, guys, pools of water in many places do not approach unless you're sure. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
27. So Abdullahi actually is remaining. Remember when he told us for him to come to Nairobi, he prefers to use a heavy duty vehicle. And a patrol is a good one. A patrol that has been chopping that road, coming all the way from Mandera, kilometers to Wajir, is the one.
That is under the water now.
Imechoma gasket. Pistons. Piston ring na whatever.
Gari an overhaul.
Engine iko pale, gari iko hapa. Sad.
And that's a serious car.
Big time.
It's time.
It's a very serious car.
City, tell us about this airport.
The new airport in the old one.
Well, let me just read something that is attributed to the minister in charge of transport. What else is he in charge of?
Infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay. I've just landed at the airport with the president, and just like any other passenger, we're dropped far from the terminal and we had to walk through the rain. Udi, nothing just changes because of the rains, but plans are already in place for a new terminal. Now, according to the CS, saying he's very clear in his mind, and I'm very clear in my mind and very focused that in the next 3 years we need to deliver a brand new airport that will be a signature project for this administration, Murkomen said. The CS made the revelation when he appeared before the Senate to respond to plans to fix problems at JKIA and other issues. We can't just have an airport that is older than myself, built in 1978. Why can't we? I want to be a partaker of President William Ruto's grand plan to give us something new and fresh. We don't need a new airport, but Minister. We actually don't need a new airport. This one, I have to say from the get-go, we do not need a new airport.
He's talked about two things, terminal and airport. Is he talking about the same thing?
Yes. There is no airport on this planet that doesn't have vehicles, buses of some sort, electric or otherwise, that transport you from one place to the other. They all do. Which means that there is no airport on this planet that has 100% cover where you will not walk some distance at some point. Now, there are those who say, well, you know that this airport in Amsterdam where you land and you simply just walk within. Believe me, even when there's a canopy covering, there is at some point you're going to walk without a canopy covering you. It may be a small distance, but it's there. So why don't we copy airports that have ensured that the plan of that airport is such that when you land, remember, there are times you land and there are planes all over.
Yeah.
So you can't dock where you're literally next to the terminal. So what happens then? The option is to wait until one other plane moves so that your plane can taxi and find a good parking spot. Now, that doesn't usually happen. It doesn't happen.
There just seems to be an appetite. Look, I can understand where there's the need for development and infrastructure, but there seems to be an appetite for the spend, whereby there are very many projects in this country that we don't started who knows when, but should the attention not be placed on completion of some of these things and remedy for those other areas where there was a botched job or something like that? I can understand the need to have something new, brand spanking new. I get that. But the truth of the matter is that...
What is it for?
Exactly. Why? At this point, if you put it against the great need of completion of some of these other things, what outweighs the other? A new airport? Completion of roads, for example, that have taken 15 years. What's that road you said started when?
All these roads are old. All we do is repair them.
Let's not even go far. Enterprise Road
Yeah.
has been under construction for the last 10 years. This Enterprise Road here.
Yes.
Okay. The conversation about a new airport terminal started with the Vision 2030.
Yes, it did.
Looking into, expansion, making Nairobi a competitive hub.
Terminal.
And all, right? And this was the Greenfields terminal. Basically like a new brand, swanking new runway, airport, everything that functions alongside this old one. And the whole justification for it was, if we make Nairobi a competitive hub, then because of the geographical location and everything, everybody across Africa goes through hub and spoke.
Yes, it is.
Right? And then there was a Greenfields terminal issue that was floated. A contract was even awarded.
Yes.
There's that matter that's still pending in court
It's
and
still
in
pending in
parliament
court.
and
Yes,
about
yes.
Uhuru came in and Uhuru said, I forget that time, I'm not doing it. That's why the matter is in court.
Yes.
Now Mukromen is saying Ruto is keen on completing it.
When we had the World Cup in South Africa, I happened to do a lot of work in that part of the world. So I actually witnessed the process of they were not putting up an airport, revamping the old airports and expanding them. So essentially what you then had was the very thing you're saying. And this, I think, was the idea behind the Greenfields. Expand this thing and make sure it's viable for the sort of numbers that we're expecting to see during the World Cup. They did not go next door to build a new airport. No. You landed in the same place you landed before. Some runways were extended and the buildings were extended essentially to accommodate. Now, that, my friend, in ICT terms, they were updating and upgrading this particular system. Okay? But when you say you're building a brand new one, let's say that was a reporting issue, shall we?
Oh, God.
I don't think so. It sounds like
it sounds like there's actually a plan.
Because Greenfield is actually sort of like a JKIA-B.
Yes. A JKIA-B would make sense.
It's like the way Schiphol is you land across the road on their side, and then there are people who are taking off on this side, or Doha, or,
My friend, go to even Gatwick. Go where you want to go. You'll find similar stories. Okay? But when we have a situation where we have an airport in disrepair, what are you saying? We're saying we haven't fully realized the capacity of this particular airport.
Yeah.
Okay? So you want to build a new one. For what purposes? Is there documentation that we can clearly see that tells us that what we have doesn't meet the needs that are already present?
It's not adequate.
So the new one becomes a no-brainer. It is clear we will need a new one. That we need to revamp it. There's no question about it. All these facilities have to be revamped from time to time. Because the problem with the new airport, it means costs.
Yes, it does.
That is the problem.
It means a lot more. It means cost. It is inconvenience. It is probably a seizure of certain operations while that goes on. Because very rarely are you able to put in a new infrastructure like that and then have all the old operations running as normal.
Difficult.
Very, very difficult.
If basic repairs are a problem, new airport, you start putting it in, what do you think is going to happen to JKIA?
It's not a priority right now.
What's going to happen to the operations of JKIA?
I don't see it as a priority.
I thought the idea was you streamline what you have and make sure it's optimally functional. Thereafter, you can determine whether this thing meets the needs or not. And if it doesn't, then, okay, where was the study that was done that shows us that we do need a new airport?
Let's be hard pressed to find one.
No, but these things have to be data driven, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
An airport is a very, it's a security installation. It's a very expensive installation. And it has very, very interesting consequences.
I think there was data to support that move in the Kibaki days for that expansion. However, I am agreeing, the current JKIA is leaking, it's dilapidated. Then Terminal 1A that was done looking brand swanking new, or 1B that was just redone the other day are just looking wow.
It's now swanking leaking.
What Kipchumba should have been focusing on is saying, all right, so this is what we're going to do first of all, just to make this thing function. Okay? We are going to increase buses so that when the president lands, the president does not get rained on like other people. So see, his quote there is, we, like other people, got rained on.
They got rained on like Watu.
Yeah, the problem that he had is that we got rained on like other people. So we are going to make sure that
we never get rained on again.
We don't get rained on.
Isn't it a good thing that they got rained on? Because then you get to know exactly what other people go feel. Through. And these other people happen to be every paying client who happens to be using the airport.
Yeah.
That's business to the airport.
Anyway, let's talk about spending money in a better way, right? Not doing airports. How about we spend money by going to Saudi Arabia and going to Russia to investigate this 17 billion fuel story?
To find out, fact-finding mission.
Yes.
Hey, okay.
Yes. A National Assembly committee plans to visit Russia and Saudi Arabia as part of efforts to get to the bottom of the 17 billion shilling fuel saga. The lawmakers also want to get Nyeri's bank details to establish her credit worthiness. Further, the Energy Committee plans to summon National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Jogon Ndongo, his energy counterpart Davis Chirchir, to establish the origin and ownership of this fuel. Okay? Because they'll come with a certificate of origin.
Excuse me.
Let me continue. Okay. The committee, which is chaired by Mwala MP Vincent Musyoka, said if need be, it will also invite opposition leader Raila Odinga to shed light on this matter. The committee will even go to the source of this oil because we owe Kenyans the truth. Yesterday, MPs poked holes into the narrative so far given by Nyeri. According to Musyoka, the committee has done some research and some things are not adding up on the statements made by Nyeri. We have looked at the shipping schedule at the port. The consignment was not among those lined up. There's a lot that we need to dig up. In its investigations, the committee will be seeking to know the bank that advanced Nyeri the letter of credit for the 17 billion. They'll also be interested to know whether the money was paid in shillings or in dollars.
You know what?
If the amount was paid in dollars, then the Central Bank of Kenya could have raised a red flag because that amount would have dented our dollar reserves.
You know what's making me
GEM MP Elisha Odhiambo said the committee must understand from Ms. Nyeri whether she was qualified to be given 17 billion. We need to know from the bank how she got this money, whether she qualified from it. They also resolved that they'll demand original documents from KPA.
You know what? You know what's making me happy?
They pointed out that Nyeri must appear before them. We will not crucify anyone without giving them a fair hearing.
Okay.
Ms. Nyeri needs to know that she cannot make allegations of such magnitude, then fail to appear before this committee.
It's okay. You know what's making me laugh? That if you listen to these guys, you actually think that they are vested, hard work, want to find out exactly what happened.
Oh, yes.
As if they don't know. Clowns Pro Max. Pro Max.
This is what we call Mwosho Moja. You see this whole...
They're shouting everywhere. In fact, Ednah said we must go to the place where the supposed oil came from.
You know what I find?
To the oil field itself.
Yes, we want to see.
Hapo ndio ilikuwa crude.
Well, you a pipe from here to here.
It was refined here. Okay, now let's go to the... So this is where the ship was loaded. So how do you load this ship? So how do you know this is 1 billion worth of...
Okay, as you think about it, let's go for lunch.
Can these guys actually tell the difference? No. Can they actually tell the difference between crude oil and diesel?
I mean, they should get away with heaven's sake. What are we doing? Joker.
This is a conversation we are having when the country is drowning.
Underwater.
Huh?
Yep.
The country is underwater.
These are the elected leaders.
Good Lord in heaven. See, is it 7 o'clock?
Not yet. Tell us about the gift that keeps on giving. KRA, 5 billion shillings, not KRA. Treasury.
Treasury said, we have air. The air we have is not. So let's gift you for air.
All right.
In 2009, a tender to build an alternative data recovery center in Naivasha. Have you seen such a thing as you've been going towards Mlango Kubwa?
What is a data recovery center?
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot see it.
Exactly.
It is underground.
That is what they paid for.
Okay.
That thing that you cannot see. It's like the Loch Ness Monster. Which little known Misort Africa won? They won the tender, all right? It was estimated to cost about 800 million for this data center. We're in 2023. And that cost of that data center has gone to 5 billion shillings in what is being called a botched deal that now brings into focus
cost how? Wait.
to finish building the center till now. But the problem is the center does not exist. Are you getting me?
Everybody did that story.
Okay. Now let me tell you. Please pay close attention.
Okay.
Okay. Meanwhile, just note that was in 2009, okay. And we are now in 2023, so that's 14 years down the line.
Okay.
So, all right. Now, blunders by National Treasury officials in designing and executing a project to construct an alternative data recovery center in Naivasha might have gifted a little-known firm a 5 billion shillings payout under controversial circumstances. Misort Africa Limited, a company with very little digital footprint and whose name does not pop up in any search of the Public Procurement and Information Portal, despite having been around for 19 years, sorry, that's 19, got more than it had bargained for in a botched deal that brings into sharp focus the frivolous manner in which public projects are implemented in the country. A tender which Misort Africa won and which was initially estimated to cost around 800 million shillings has now ballooned to 5.17 billion, according to figures given by the National Assembly's Finance and Planning Committee. In December 2021, the High Court upheld an award of 3,874,450,575 shillings to Misort Africa after a sole arbitrator earlier found that the National Treasury had breached the contract it had with the firm by taking over the projects for the construction of the centre before its completion. Now, it started in 2009 under the administration of late President Mwai Kibaki. The construction of the Data Recovery Centre was initially estimated to cost 782 million shillings. This was later revised upward to 899 million, according to a Treasury document. The end of the project was estimated to be December 2014. What year are we in now? 2023. While making its submissions before the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the first supplementary budget for the current financial year, the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning singled out the award as one of the National Treasury's largest pending bills, because pending bills come into play in this. And so they started to ask questions. Wait a minute. 3 questions. Number 1, it was 800 million in the initial. Why is it now 5 billion? Number 2, why was this organization, who nobody knows anything about, awarded the tender? And number 3, why is there no data recovery center in Naivasha?
It's underground. Did you not say they were building it underground?
So they started building, and then the National Treasury took over the project. Why did the National Treasury take over the project? Initially, because this appears that these guys were doing whatever they were supposed to do. Then the National Treasury came and interfered, and that's why they went into arbitration, because there was breach of contract at some point.
There was.
That often means that this thing will be halted. The thing may not particularly move.
Yeah, because they went into arbitration.
Did they conclude the arbitration?
Yes.
Yes, it did, and there was an award that was granted
of 5.17.
But did the works continue?
No,
they have not been awarded. They have not paid. Oh, they were paid.
They were paid. Misort was paid.
Yes, they were paid, but did the works continue?
No, it has not been completed. The Data Recovery Center.
So how much money have we spent on this incomplete project?
5.17 billion shillings.
I thought it was 800 million.
No.
That's where it started.
They have not paid. There was an award, but it has not been paid. That's why it's a pending bill.
Okay, so the question, according for the committee, is why is this money here still waiting to be paid, and what was it for?
Yeah.
Right? So the award being given out, and the questions as to why it ballooned from 800 million going then to 5 billion is the question. That's the question here. Why did it increase, and why was it supposed to have been completed in December 2014 and until today is not completed? Arbitration aside, the thing here is that there's no data recovery center, and the other question of why did it balloon to 5 times, 6 times
interest
over time, over the last
this thing
14 years.
Seems to have been engineered to end up here.
Yep.
It was crafted in this manner.
Yep.
And when you start to ask the questions, if anybody is bold enough to pull back the layers, who does Resort Africa belong to? And those are the questions that will come up.
This thing sounds like, it started so that it ends at 5 billion shillings. Question is just why haven't you paid it? You still want the interest to continue rising? It gets to 7 billion shillings and then now you pay at that point.
After all, it's an award. It's an award in arbitration.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Candidates who start for this year's KCPE exams are set to know what they scored a few hours from now. Education CS Ezeke Mashogu will officiate the release of the last KCPE results at the new NEC headquarters in South Bay, Nairobi. About 1.4 million candidates undertook their KCPE exams and another 1.2 million did the KEPSA exams for grade 6. Some education stakeholders now want to hold a meeting with the Ministry of Education to hold discussions around the uncertainty of whether grade 7, 8 and 9 should be in junior secondary or senior secondary. KUPPET Secretary General Omboko Melemba says that if the government doesn't change the plan, then the students will continue to stay in primary school, which means that there'll be a teacher shortage and infrastructure won't be able to handle the high number of students.
At a time when the government is grappling with numerous financial struggles, including university funding, employment of teachers, and the establishment of infrastructure, it beats logic that the country is now planning to build facilities like laboratories in primary schools when this already exists in secondary.
KUPPET Deputy Chairman Julius Korir on his part says that 1 year since the CBC curriculum was implemented, the standards of education have remained poor due to such reasons.
Alafu mwalimu ambaye anafunza JSS alipokuwa uko university alifunzwa somo viwili. Mwingine amefunzwa Kiingereza na literature. Mwingine amefunzwa Kiswahili labda na jiografia. Alafu nachukua mwalimu kama huyo, alafu namwambia afunze sayansi.
The two said that they've already written to President William Ruto about the matter that needs to be resolved before schools reopen for first term. As the El Nino rain is expected to continue to fall in different parts of the country, questions are increasingly emerging about the 10 billion shillings allocated by the national government to deal with the effects of the rain. This is after the national and county government emphasized that they do not have funds allocated to deal with the effects of El Nino. It should be noted that in the 2023-2024 budget, the government allocated 4.4 billion shillings to the Disaster Management Department, funds that the governors have now been asked to use to deal with the problem. This even comes as Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua seems to be confused about whether the government allocated money to deal with El Nino or not.
There has been a misconception that some county governments have been waiting for the national government to give them money for this intervention. We are therefore a little bit shocked when we see governors complaining that they are yet to receive money for El Nino from the national government. Such money is not forthcoming.
However, the Deputy President has said that the national government has provided 2.4 billion shillings.
They are expected to use emergency money within their financial provision and to reallocate money within their budget to intervene for the people that they govern.
Council of Governors Chairperson Anu Aiguru, however, says that county governments are yet to receive the 10 billion shillings.
To date, we wish to state and clarify that county governments have not received any allocation from the national government to go towards mitigation measures for El Nino. As a matter of fact, Counties are owed a total of 62.58 billion from the equitable share that is yet to be disbursed as follows. 13 counties are owed 10.17 billion for the month of September. 27 counties are owed 19.64 billion for the month of October. And finally, all counties are owed 32.76 billion for the month of November.
And in the international scene, a senior Israeli official has said hostages being held in Gaza won't be freed before Friday. A pause in fighting was expected to begin on Thursday, but an Israeli government source says that it has been delayed. Under the planned agreement, 50 Israeli hostages taken by Hamas will be released and 150 Palestinian women and teenagers held in Israeli jails freed. Israel has continued its grounds and air operation in Gaza, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to win absolute victory over Hamas. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Okay, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, traffic busy on the Thika Superhighway, but just as you come towards Pangani is where we'll see most of that happening. We'll also have some movement coming in on Jogo Road this morning, and then also coming in from Westlands. Movement is actually not held up by any kind of traffic, at least not for now. Getting into traffic hour, and we know that the heavens have opened again, so rain is still coming down. It's going to slow some folks down or even keep folks indoors. So it's one to watch out for. Let's see what happens as we get closer to traffic hour. But for now, I think you'll be able to get where you're going without too much of a hiccup. Let's see what happens. Will you help us out? Let us know where you might run into a jam, and we can share, at least keep folks away from there, or then point them in a different direction. Let's do it. Let's talk. Spice FM, KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
It's
the
7
only
minutes
way
after
to
7
start
on
your
this
day.
23rd of November 2023. It's Thursday, and as usual, we have our Justice Thursday conversation coming up shortly. We're joined in the studio by Rose Washuka. She is the Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And Dr. Sam Muller, who is the CEO of the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law, Hill. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show. Welcome, Dr. Muller. You're from The Hague.
I'm from The Hague, but also from the world. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, someone from The Hague being in the studio would have been okay. Some big thing.
Big deal. Question, who have they come from?
Yes. From The Hague.
Yes.
And they're here.
Yes.
And it's justice related. Whoa,
Yes, I remember that.
Let's do something. This, getting into the shop.
You're in the shop?
Yeah.
How many are you giving me? Are you feeling generous this morning? You're that guy?
Yeah, pass around.
So?
City.
Yes?
Give Dr. Muller this. He knows what kiwi is, I'm sure.
You know what kiwi is, don't you?
If he doesn't, he will know.
Ha, let me tell you. So kiwi is a polish brand. In fact, when people would go to look for shoe polish, they would say, I'm going to buy kiwi. It was not, I'm going to buy shoe polish. So the name became synonymous with the need. So and that was the thing. There was nothing else. And so it stepped into people's lives, and it gives folks the opportunity to shine. So look good while you go to school. And then it became synonymous with children going to school and having their shoes polished properly. Now, Kiwi stepping up in a different way and saying, you know, we want you to look good, but we also want you to be well prepared. Because January comes with a lot of responsibility, especially when it comes to school fees. So Kiwi says, how about we make it a little bit easier? And we're going to ask you to walk into any place where the Kiwi is available in the new design, of course, with this new logo.
Yeah.
Make your purchase of whatever size, and then pick up your phone and dial *459 *5#. And when you pop the lid of the tin that you buy, underneath is a code. You're going to put that code as you dial that number, and you instantly win airtime or data. Interestingly enough as well, you get to enter into a draw. And 4 people every week are winning 35,000 shillings that goes directly to school fees. So you can show up with your Kiwi, your shoes shined, and there's money in the bank so that you don't lose any school days. It's great.
Big thing.
It's big stuff.
Impressive.
Isn't it?
You know Kiwi, Dr. Muller, right?
Yes.
You've used Kiwi.
I did.
Wow.
Yes.
See?
I know it. I know it.
It's a global brand.
Yep.
Now, to welcome you to the conversation, CT has the day's proverb, and this week's proverbs are from Namibia.
Yes, this week's proverbs are from the Republic of Namibia. Now, the interesting thing about this country, when you Google Namibia and you look at the stats, among the things that they list is the CJ. Most countries, you have a prime minister, you have the political arm of government, you have prime minister, minister, president, vice president. I haven't come across king yet, but you have all those. Now, this country actually has a CJ, Chief Justice, gentleman by the name of Peter Sivute. Then they have a deputy prime minister, a vice president, and a president. And they have 2 houses, an upper house and a lower house. But the significant thing about it, 31% of this country is actually desert. It's 1.4 times the size of Kenya, yet its population is half of the population of the city of Nairobi. It's very sparsely populated. As someone asked yesterday, shouldn't we move there? And I said, well, I'm sure there's lots of space in the desert. We can move there, yes.
It's a beautiful country.
Yes, it is. The proverb for the day: envy and green grow from the same stalk.
Envy and green grow from the same stalk. Rose, what's your interpretation of this one?
It's the coexistence of the complexities that we live with as human beings, where from whence comes good can also come evil, and bad from whence comes positivity can also come negativity. So as we are saying in Sturge, the glass is half full, not half empty.
Rose, are you a poet?
I love poetry.
You wax very lyrically.
I do love poetry.
It's a good one. It's a good one, Rose.
Yeah.
Dr. Muller, what's your interpretation of it?
Yeah, it's a thinker. It's a thinker, this one. But I was also going kind of in that direction. I mean, the things are never in our lives today. I very often get a bit annoyed by the way things are made simple. They're either exceedingly good or exceedingly bad, and that applies to so many things. Politicians, political parties. We've just had elections in the Netherlands where the most crazy dichotomies were put forward by politicians in order to win or to lose. And in fact, life is so much more complex. And I think that's what this kind of reminds me of, that it is often a lot more difficult than we think. And our task is, in a way, to embrace the complexity and let it be and deal with that rather than try and make it simple.
Absolutely.
City. Mark this one.
If this were an exam and we're marking it out of just 10, you would get 11. And so would you. The beauty of being asked to give your opinion, one, you can't possibly be wrong. But the additional mark that you've gotten above 10 is because you've gone beyond just explaining it. You've contextualized it, and you've given it a few more legs to walk with. Now, when you give it wings to fly, then you might get 13 out of 10.
We will revisit at the end of the
next exam. Our topic today is how Kenya is changing the face of justice through a people-centered approach. We know that there will be an address by the Chief Justice tomorrow. We'll be talking about that shortly. But first, let's get to understand this institute that you represent, HIL, the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law. Tell us about it. What is it?
We were created a little over 15 years ago as an institute to look into the justice gap, to look into the fact that access to justice in most countries in the world is far from being a reality, and to look at it with a bit of a different lens. We were seeing that a lot of the solutions to the access to justice gap were what I would call more business as usual. And I also observed that the justice gap in the world is probably one of the most invisible problems that we have today. So it's just a general global statistic is that we would see anywhere between half to 2/3 of the people in most countries in the world do not have adequate access to justice. And the ones that do get access to justice, generally we see that only about 1/3 get anywhere close near a resolution for what they want. And I always say, what if that was education? What if 2/3 of the children in the world would not get access to education, or 2/3 of the people would not get access to health? And if only 1/3 were happy with what they got, there'd be outrage.
Yep.
And this is not a problem that is all that visible. So I suppose in a way we represent also the outrage. But we want to go beyond that. It's outrage, but also coming up with innovative solutions. That's why we have the word innovation in our title, in our name. Innovation, new thinking to try and solve this and close this justice gap.
What are some of the solutions?
There are many, because it's a complex problem. Obviously, again, we were referring to the proverb that the world is not simple. So you can't say, well, all judges are lazy, so we should make them work harder, or lawyers are not doing what they're supposed to do, so we should retrain them. It's not that simple. It takes a lot more than that. But there are a couple of things that we have identified, and not just us. We're in a leading group in the world, but we work with many other partners internationally, universities, think tanks, international organizations. So there are many fellow developers and travelers down this road. But there's a couple of things we do know. One is you need data. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't solve it. And that's a bit of a shocker for many lawyers, because lawyers don't like data. And in fact, in most law schools, you don't get data. I often call it the equivalent of epidemiology in the health sector. You know, if I wake up my wife, who's a general practitioner, at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I ask her, what are the 4 most prevalent diseases that children have? She will tell me.
Yep.
If I wake up an average lawyer friend at 4 in the morning and I say, what are the 4 most prevalent justice diseases people have? They probably wouldn't have a clue. So data is one important thing. You have to know who has, and let's just use the equivalent, who has which justice disease. Are they men? Are they women? Are they old? Are they young? Are they urban? Are they rural? Are they highly educated, lower educated? What's the journey to justice that they take? How does it work? Do they get resolution? Where do they get information? Where do they go for resolution? What is the impact of the problem on their lives? All this stuff you need to know. And only if you know that can you start taking steps. The second is that on the basis of that data, you could start adopting much more evidence-based approaches. And one of the things that we lawyers, and I'm a lawyer myself, so I'm also making fun of myself, but we lawyers tend to think that if we have a judgment or a law, then we have reality. And of course, that's often not the case. So we're saying we need to move more to evidence-based working. Again, something that is quite normal in the world of education, that's quite normal in the world of health. What are good interventions that help solve, let's say, small land problems? What are effective interventions that help solve problems around employment, around crime? You can actually collect best practices, and you can weed out worst practices, and you can share best practices. And if the whole community working on justice were to do that, then the quality of the service that is delivered would be much higher. And the third element that we highlight all the time is innovation. Many of the models that we use to get the interventions that work to people are still the same old models that we had in 1850, and in many parts of Africa, 1850 in the UK or in another colonial power, and they were enshrined in law, and that's what we do. So we're also saying innovate the delivery models. Try and think differently. How can you get interventions that work to people that need them when they need them against a sustainable funding model? And a courtroom or a law firm are just two ways you can get justice to people, but you can get justice to people in many different ways. One of the interesting things that we see from the data in Kenya, for example, is how much trust the institution of a chief has here. Yeah. People trust them, people use them, people go there. It's also surprising how much trust there is in for many problems, not all of them, but in policemen. So there's a lot you could do there, and you can also use technology. So innovation is really important, and so these are kind of the new elements that we bring in, and the overriding central point in everything is don't put the institutions at the center, but put the outcomes that people need at the center. And I like to compare that with the health sector. It's not important how many hospitals you build, how many operations you do as a surgeon per year. What counts is how much health are you producing. So we say the same here. How much justice is being produced in which area? That's what you need to measure. That's what you need to work on. That's what your strategy should be about. That's what your accountability should be about.
I'm curious. What started you off on this journey?
Oh, many things. One is that I was very much involved in the setting up of the international criminal tribunals, and I worked for the UN for a long time. And what I really found is that once things totally deteriorate and you reach the stage where you need a Rwanda tribunal or a Yugoslav tribunal or an international criminal court, you're often too late. Things have usually escalated to a level that it's I won't say beyond repair, but very difficult to repair. So I was thinking we have to go further downstream. We have to, solve the daily justice needs that people have. And I slowly started observing, in my professional life, that's where there's a lot of failing. We don't know. I didn't know how bad it was until we started researching this and looking at the numbers. But it's around us every day. One of the questions I sometimes like to ask when I speak to people is how many of you have been close to, let's say, an employment problem or a divorce problem? And then I would ask them to stand up. And then I would ask, how many of you can say that problem was effectively, speedily, fairly resolved to your satisfaction with great gratitude to the judiciary in your country or lawyers? And then, in fact, most people sit down again. That's just the way people experience it. And that has to change. And it can change, because there are so many amazing judges and lawyers and jurists in the world who want to see this differently and want to operate differently. And as we'll talk about later, Kenya's, I think, leading the charge on a lot of that.
So essentially what you're doing is you're questioning the very concept of justice.
I guess questioning it, maybe not questioning it in the sense that we're not asking whether it's important or not. We're saying we've got to make it happen. It needs to be something that is experienced by people, that is usable by people, that you can access, that you could use in your daily life. Because the impact of not getting justice is huge. The kind of things we measure are mental health, emotional stress, loss of income, loss of time. It has a huge impact on people's lives if they walk around with an unresolved justice problem. And that we also increasingly see is a cost to society. If people lose their income because it takes 5 years to solve a particular justice problem, or because they don't even know that the problem they have is a justice problem that could be resolved, then that is bad for the economy if they lose their income, and it's bad for the people themselves. If family problems are not solved quickly and in a good way, children may not go to school anymore. Children may end up in crime. There's a lot of things that could happen. So the impact of not doing this is also significant, we're seeing.
Rose, even as we talk about this and talk about the fact that more so than maybe with previous Chief Justices, we've seen that the push has been to actually then have people at the center of justice, and to say that access to justice is something that must be recognized through every process. It doesn't matter whether you're at security agency police process. It doesn't matter whether you're in the court. It doesn't matter whether it becomes then a remand issue. That at every level, everyone must access this justice. And so we are breaking down this monolith of confusion that was there before and saying individuals must see that has worked. What are some of the ways that we actually see this practically, that people are being put at the very center of access to justice over the last few years?
Thank you. If you think back to 1963, it's going to be 60 years in December. And if you think about how our justice system has evolved, there has to be an acceptance and understanding that actually the post-pre-colonial justice system was a power construct. It was actually developed to serve the ruling class and to settle political scores. And if we are taking score 60 years later, we have to ask ourselves, how has it evolved? And most importantly, because for us, I think the system of governance that we've chosen is a post-2010 system of governance. And that's our starting point. That's the baseline. And when you think about the files and the cases that we say are pending in court, we are no longer calling them files. We are calling them justice journeys. These are people's lives. And so when you walk into the registry, we are reorienting our registry staff and people who work in the judiciary to think of those as people's lives, justice journeys. What has it taken for that justice journey to actually find itself on the shelf? And that is changing the way that we conceptualize things. But also, if you think about what happens, and the document that the Chief Justice is going to launch tomorrow, which is the Social Transformation Through Access to Justice Blueprint, we also think about what we observe and what the data is telling us, what the evidence is telling us about what people actually need. It is a sad reality in this country that demolitions could happen on Saturday because citizens cannot access courts to access orders. And the blueprint and the judiciary conversation has been, why don't we have 24-hour duty courts? If we have a healthcare system that actually operates on a 24-hour basis, why not have a justice system that does the same? And this is more so because justice, education, healthcare are at the center of human dignity. And so we also are giving back that utu, and we're using that concept of dignity, that when you approach any institution of the judiciary, but also when you're resolving disputes within the family, within the community, with chiefs, with the police, the central remit has to actually be the recognition of human dignity. And we are seeing this because we are looking at access to justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, and we recognize that it cannot be a similar system to other disputes. There is a human dignity issue at the core of the violation, and that has informed the establishment of the 12 specialized SGBV courts that we are using as an innovative component to understand how specialized justice there needs to be. Children. We cannot mix children, and we cannot handle disputes relating to children much the same way as we handle other disputes. And that's where mediation comes in. And mediation is not the arena for lawyers. It's not. Mediation concerns families, it concerns elders, it concerns accredited practitioners who actually reconcile families. So if you think about a family related issue and why we are pushing families towards mediation, is that, strictly speaking, if you go at it in an adversarial system in court, at the end of it, you have a fragmented family. But our concern and the charge we have from the Constitution is to actually build resilient, cohesive societies and families. And mediation allows for families to engage in conversation. And so we are using justice champions in the form of judges, magistrates, elders, mediators to actually, rally around the cause of reconciliation, of problem solving, not necessarily, churning data that we have resolved 70,000 cases. But our concern right now is how many families have been reconciled. How have we dealt with the root causes of this problem? And so it's a shift. It's a shift in the way that we understand justice, that we atomize justice, that we redesign our courts, that we retool and retrain our judges and magistrates towards people-centered justice, and not to perpetuate the power-structured system that we inherited at independence. 60 years later, we cannot continue thinking about our institutions as institutions that actually maintain the political rubric. We have to think about them as institutions that secure the dignity, lives, and hope that Kenyans have in our country.
It's a big transformation. We'll talk about it shortly as we continue this conversation. Moving away from looking at justice in an adversarial manner. That I'm coming to court, I want justice, you must be punished, I must win, I must go home victor, and you must suffer. And seeing how to change that. That's why we call it the social transformation through access to justice. We'll talk about that shortly. And also Rose Washuka will be telling us about tomorrow's launch of the social transformation through access to justice. What? Blueprint. And what it means, where it's taking us, and why it's important to launch it at this particular point. 28 minutes to 8, our guests this morning on this Justice Thursday conversation. Dr. Sam Muller is the CEO of the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law, and Rose Washuka is the Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Safaricom has introduced a youth platform which is giving customers freedom to choose what products they prefer, how much to spend, and surprisingly, even the validity period. Join me, Yolanda Mulwa, and DJ Absolute every weekday from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock to find out more. Get hooked and tap into Vision Yako. Connect, grow, and do more. Get ready for the festive season with Tease the Season. Join us at the Junction Mall rooftop on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of December at 6 p.m. for a magical Kenyan Christmas experience. The show is directed by Atemi Oyungu and Lisa Oduor Noah and features some of your favorite artists, including Chris Adwar, Kendi Nkonge, and Manasseh Shalom. We also have new voices to introduce to you this year, but that's not all. On Saturday and Sunday from noon, we have a pop-up Christmas market for you to enjoy. Make sure you don't miss out on this incredible event and get your tickets now at ticketsasa.com. Advanced tickets are available for 1,700, while gate tickets are available for 2,200. Tease the Season, a very Kenya.
Showers this morning in Nairobi is 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 23. And we're looking into a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 15 with highs of 23 as well. 23 will be the high in Nyeri, where showers are also starting again this morning. It's cloudy and rainy in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Partly cloudy conditions at 25 in Mombasa, and at 26 it's partly cloudy in Malindi. It's 21 and cloudy conditions in Kisumu with highs of 27, where we'll see highs of 27 as well. In a cloudy Kakamega currently at 19. Kampala is cloudy at 19 with highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam cloudy at 24 going to highs of 30. We're looking into a sunny Johannesburg at 22, highs of 31 and lows of 19. While Mogadishu this morning is cloudy at 26 with highs of 29, and Addis Ababa is sunny at 11 with highs of 23. It's mostly cloudy at 26 in Lagos with highs of 31, and Kinshasa is cloudy at 24 with highs of 30.
Spice up your life.
We're knocking on the door of traffic hour this right about now, and it's busy on the Thika Superhighway. But just as you get past Survey, your service lanes are doing you good all the way through till just about there. There's traffic coming in from Kiambu Road. Again, not too messy, but then Muthaiga Square colliding with what's happening at the Pagani Underpass. We'll see some traffic then trying to get into the city. And as you're coming in from Muthaiga itself onto Limuru Road, you're going to get stuck there as you touch on that Wangari Maathai junction. Well, apart from that, I don't think we're seeing too much. There's a lot of movement into the city. Langata Road is starting to pile up. We'll probably see that closer to 8. But your bypasses are looking good. Southern, Eastern and Northern. There's some traffic coming on Gong Road. Watch out for that as well. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on X as we try to keep things moving this morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice, Dr. Sam Muller, CEO of the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law, our guests in this Justice Thursday conversation. Social transformation through access to justice. And what you've just given us are like examples of what this social transformation would look like. And indeed, it's transformation. Because we are no longer, and that's the same thing that Dr. Muller, you talked about, it's no longer just about accessing justice, but looking at what are some of these bottlenecks in access to justice. They come in various forms, whether it's just, systemic, or whether it's people's attitudes, or whether very many things. But for people to actually feel that I'm accessing justice, it doesn't have to be that I won. It just needs to feel I was heard and my issues were dealt with. And probably that's what you're talking about, how to go about it. But Siti, when we offer, you said this one is radical.
It actually stretches the boundaries of radicalism because, the journey of change is an interesting one, but it gets even more interesting when you have to carry people along with you. And in a judicial system, the discussions are even more pertinent because when the matter gets to any court and a determination is made, at that point history is actually made because it becomes a precedent. It's something that is a constant reference point until maybe something other than that and which has more gravitas comes into being. So it is not just fundamental, it actually gets to the heart of the matter. When I ask the question about justice, first of all, how we perceive it, how we've interacted with it, and what we see it as. And what you described, Eric, is what we perceive justice to be. If I think I have an issue that requires a resolution and I win, then that is justice. But is it? Because is it? If that process doesn't bring about an education in understanding that a problem isn't just the determination, but everything else that goes into the determination, and understanding the realities of it, and that's where the data and that's where the information comes in. So it's a learning process, even as you get to the end of it. So even if I'm at I receive the short end of the stick, I will understand why I've received the short end of the stick. Now, when I understand it, even if in our understanding of the law, I have lost, but I don't leave feeling I have actually lost. It just means I know what I could have done different. Okay? But that isn't the situation we have currently. And our waters are muddied even further because it is believed that a lot of the processes in our system are up for sale. People can bribe their way into it. So now that subverts the system completely. Now, even if it's just 2 or 3 courts, the problem with us as Kenyans is we do not need 10 courts. We just need one example and we will tarnish the entire judicial system. They'll be tarred with that same brush.
Yeah, you're right. Again, it is an understanding of what justice means. And as we've been developing this document, we've also had to refer to the Constitution many, many times. Because what happened in 2010 in Kenya was a revolution towards Kenyans saying that we have aspirations, and this is how we want to live our aspirations. And so social transformation through access to justice is living the aspirations of the Constitution, so that the Constitution first and foremost says that the people are king. They are at the center of governance, whether at political institutions or the service institutions such as the judiciary. And then Article 19 says, look, we understand that our society is stratified. We have marginalized and vulnerable members of society. Whatever you do, you must remember that there has to be programs and initiatives that cater to vulnerable members of society. It doesn't stop there. The Constitution moves to Article 48 and says justice is not for sale. And so if justice then becomes unattainable because it is expensive, then it goes against a human right called access to justice. In Article 159, the Constitution says, look, we understand that we have adopted a globalized system of law, but we have alternative justice systems that are ingrained in our indigenous knowledge. Use them. Use elders. Use systems that have been used for years in our African setting to resolve disputes. Because in 2017, SAMS Institute and the judiciary collaborated to actually assess justice needs. And one of the outcomes of those justice needs was, one, that only 10% of Kenyans who have disputes go to courts. They go to chiefs, they go to police, so there's an entire ecosystem that we need to look at and then support, which is why the NCAJ, the National Council on Administration of Justice, becomes very critical. And then it proceeded to say that every year, on average, we have 7 million complex legal problems. Okay? So if we have 7 million complex legal problems, how come we don't see those numbers? They are not in courts. And so there is a 20 million justice gap in Kenya. And that justice gap cannot be resolved through courts only, because courts are one strand. And that's why we are saying multiple door access to justice. So that the Constitution appoints the judiciary as the vanguard towards access to justice, to protecting and defending its aspirations. And in that role, the Chief Justice has actually reminded us time and again that we must care for all systems of access to justice. That if a family comes and says, oh, we have agreed that we are going to manage affairs of our family in this way, we cannot infantilize them to say that, no, that is not the way. Because that is autonomy of resolving disputes, and it leads towards social transformation. If we recognize that Kenyans actually look to chiefs to resolve disputes, then we cannot be isolated as a judiciary. And that's why the tool of court users committees then becomes critical. Court users committees brings all the actors within an institution to actually talk about how are we dispensing justice, which cases are elders handling, what kind of support do they need, what aspects are the police dealing with, how do we need them to support them. On the question of accountability, we are saying, look, we need a national justice dialogue. but we also need a national accountability in justice dialogue so that we actually understand when we talk about accountability and when prominent lawyers accuse the judiciary of bribery, who goes to those courts? Can they tell and can they show that I went to the Supreme Court, I asked to be heard on this matter, and because I'm accusing that there was bribery, I gave this amount and it was accepted. Can we then push the envelope? Can we bring Kenyans along with us to ask the hard questions? But can we also institute an accountability meter? Because we need to know what is it a perception of lack of accountability, or what is it? What are our accountability mechanisms as the judiciary? But also, going beyond the courts, we also have to ask ourselves, how are we treating the family? How are we treating the individual? How are we treating communities? How are we treating our ecology, which is where the concept of green justice comes through? And when we look at that ecosystemic approach in access to justice, then we are able to ask ourselves, what do we do with the 20 million Kenyans who are excluded from the formal justice system? And yet, the judiciary is the vanguard. The Constitution says that you utilize courts, tribunals, alternative justice systems, alternative dispute resolution. The revolution is not brought about by an institution that wants to be activist. It is by a constitution that is very alive to the realities of Kenyans, and which, if understood and implemented, would actually cause a bloodless revolution towards where the constitution is leading us.
It's where we look at justice, like you said, and it's what we espouse as our ideals in ensuring access to justice for all in our constitution and in the institutions that we've created. But I'm sure many jurists will argue this way, and this comes to you, Dr. Muller, that, when you have this formal justice system, like CT had alluded to earlier, a court or even established alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation, arbitration and all have records. Records means that you have jurisprudence that's being set that can later be used in studies and in future decision making. But when you go into this AJS, when you go to a chief or a council of elders who sit and they hit something on the ground and they say, this is what we shall determine, and there's no record of that. So it's really not helping the entire justice journey of the country. What do you say?
No, it's a question that my fellow lawyers like to raise very often as a huge issue. But let's bring it back to those 7 million justice problems a year in Kenya. Most people of that 7 million group want a resolution to their problem and want to continue their lives. And that's one of the key things that keeps coming up. If you put outcomes at the center, what do people want? You're right. They want to be heard. They want to understand the process. And there is very solid research that shows, as you have said, people don't necessarily want to win. They want to be heard. They want to experience some neutrality. They want to understand the process. They want to have some kind of fair outcome. And mostly they want to move on with their lives. So this idea that people always want to win, and that it is absolutely critical that each case sets some kind of precedent for everybody else, doesn't really respond to reality. It is important to have records, and that could, for example, be is one of the innovations that we're talking that is being looked at in many countries. Can you create, for example, using technology, a simple, easy-to-use record-keeping mechanism that somehow functions between what the so-called informal justice mechanisms do and the formal mechanisms do, so that also when a formal mechanism, a formal judge picks up a case, he or she could see from the system, but this has already been looked at by a chief. This has already been looked at by somebody else. These are the kind of things that already emerged, so that it doesn't start all over again. Because that sometimes happens. There's a lot of forum shopping. I go here, I go there, and I see where I can win. So you can certainly deal with that. And precedents are important, but there are many other ways you can do that. Not every single case needs to go to the Supreme Court for a precedent-setting ruling. Sometimes that is important, and those cases you can filter out. But most cases, they just want resolution, and they want people want to move on with their lives. I think that's very important. And last thing I would say, that is really also a new idea that came out of this people-centered justice way of working. A teasing question I like to ask ministers of justice when I meet them in the world is, who in your country is the minister responsible for the prevention of justice problems? And of course there is never an answer, because the justice system only deals with problems when they arise. Where have we made most progress in access to health and access to education? And let me stress again, access to health and access to education over the last 30 years have constantly gone up all over the world. Access to justice has not. In fact, it is declining. And where a lot of progress has been made is in the prevention. And there's also a lot of prevention work that can be done in the justice field by adopting better laws, by doing many things that are also,
But Sam, why is that? Why should the law be lagging behind, or the practice of it? Why does it lag behind?
That's an interesting question that we've pondered over a lot. And again, I go back to your proverb. It's not an easy one. But maybe I could just venture a few things that I've seen. I think one critical thing is the lack of data. My son did his bachelor's degree in law a few years ago, and I kind of followed him. And it was very interesting to see. So he did his bachelor's degree 30 years after I did it. And frankly, when I kind of followed what he was doing more or less the same stuff that I was doing 30 years ago. I have a niece who is studying medicine, and my wife is a doctor. I think if my wife understands 30% of what my niece is learning now, that's already great. So that shows you that the legal profession is not really developing. They don't have data as a standard part of the curriculum. They don't have a lot of what I call epidemiology. There's been a lot of research, for example, in the world of economics. They created behavioral economics, where they kind of find out, how do people really take decisions. Sociology, psychology, neurology has taught us a lot. That's not really part of the legal profession. So I think that's part of it. Another one is that users, because there's no data, users are often not at the table. There's also a lot of shame, of course, around justice problems. You don't mind saying, I have cancer, but you do mind saying, I think I have a divorce, or I have a land problem. It's more difficult to talk about. In the health sector, you've got associations of, for example, heart disease patients. You've got associations, and they keep the health profession on their toes. There's nothing really to the equivalent of that in the justice sector.
Association of murderers.
And lastly, maybe. Well, you've got victims associations. You're starting to see more of that, which is, I think, very good. And lastly, and this is also, I think, something we should look in the eye. If you want to call it, the justice marketplace is a monopolistic market. I mean, it's dominated by lawyers. In the health sector, not all directors of hospitals are doctors.
True.
Not all medical.
Not all public health practitioners are doctors.
Right. So the market needs to open. We need to open up, which is something that not all bar associations, law societies, and others like. But that has to happen.
I hear you on some of the things that you're saying, and interestingly enough, this data is right here. And it's staring us in the face, but it's not being collated, it's not being collected and being used. And the information or data from where I see it is the individuals who are accessing and engaging with this system every day. It's the individual who has been granted bail or bond, but has to sit in the courtroom the whole day because another system, whereby you would hope was incorporated into this in the name of the police, wants to make sure that individual is there, and we can see how we can have this net of corruption continuing. It's the individual who tosses trash on the road and doesn't want to be in remand because they can't afford a fine, but they want to be able to be understood and then be let go on their own recognizance. That's the data that we should be collecting and using. So the question here is, even as we are looking at this access and saying that it must be people-centered, are the other institutions that are part of this process also being brought in to this conversation? Because without that, then it becomes a very surface level discussion or conversation. Again, individuals who could be fined on the spot as opposed to going into a system where they have to hire representation. Office of a Public Defender, for example, for people who do not have access to funds to represent themselves. Looking at not having to sit a whole day waiting for a bond to be paid where the magistrate signed your paper at 9 o'clock. Do you see? So
Yeah.
where is all of this happening so that all these people are coming together?
There's a wonderful coordination mechanism that we have in Kenya called the National Council on Administration of Justice, and the Chief Justice chairs that body. And the NCAJ coordinates justice actors. And actually, data is being collected. The NCAJ released their annual report about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they were here.
Exactly, and they've been speaking about it. And tomorrow also, as a baseline to start, the Chief Justice will also release the annual State of the Judiciary Address, something that the Chief Justices in Germany, in Israel and other places, Pakistan, actually have written to say is one of the most open. The understanding that these issues that we are observing need to be resolved. For instance, the issue of the integrity of bail and bond processes have been addressed by practice directions by the Chief Justice, requiring the judicial officer to actually take charge. So that the order is not issued and then there are clandestine things that happen in the basements or outside, or it's not issued at 4 o'clock so that you can spend another night in and so that your people can come and bribe. But it is also about understanding and having these conversations at the NCAJ, honest conversations about where are we going wrong. And in this new approach of social transformation through access to justice, we are no longer just looking at a judge or a magistrate as a judge or a magistrate. We are looking at and we are redesigning the role of judge into 4 roles. One, as an adjudicator of disputes, which is what sets precedent. And by the way, 70% of all disputes resolved in courts are actually resolved in the magistrates' courts, which doesn't have precedent-setting value. And so the argument falls on its face that we actually do need that to legitimize decisions. Those decisions go to the superior courts, and it is a system of sort of, seeing that there's a bit of uniformity in how the law is applied. So one, as an adjudicator of disputes. 2, as a promoter of social harmony. That when a case is before you, you've got to ask yourself, how do we need to leave society? What does this case mean for the country, for society, for family, for the environment? Third, as a facilitator of dialogue. Because dialogue is very, very critical in getting to the root and bringing up evidence around social conflict. And finally, as a connector of justice champions. Do we know who the justice champions are? Lawyers, parties come to court, civil society members who support and facilitate access to legal information. And so when the judge sits and wears the 4 hats under Sturge as a promoter of social harmony, as a connector of justice champions, as an adjudicator of disputes, and as a facilitator of dialogue. More importantly, there is an element in Sturge called judicial hygiene, which is what Sam referenced. preventative justice. If we can have conversations in our communities, in our societies, facilitated by CUCs and facilitated by other actors coordinated at the NCEJ, then we are able to know that there is a likelihood that there is going to be a conflict of this nature, and we need to do X in order to avert that. So, for instance, we need to do X to avert corruption, we need to do Y to avert extrajudicial killings, we need to do Z to make sure that we have instant fines, because also the manual system is actually open to abuse. The difficulty, as with all coordination mechanisms, is how do you attain perfect coordination? And that is a question that is the dilemma that we're grappling with, and we're having conversations about.
How do you change human behavior? How do you get people to understand all this, and how do you get them to appreciate? Because this is...
By handing them agency, by making sure that they understand that they are active actors.
How do you do that?
Let's see it as the Chief Justice launches the tomorrow. So what time will it be? It will be live on KTN.
Yes, it will be live on KTN. Right. The ceremony starts at 10 in the morning.
Right. As she delivers the state of, it's called the state of the
Judiciary and Administration of
Justice report, and also she launches the social transformation through access to justice blueprint tomorrow. Thank you very much, Rose and Dr. Muller, for joining us. Rose is the Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice. Dr. Sam Muller is the CEO from the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law. 8 a.m. Conversations continue. Good morning.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Leah Obaga. The Kenya Pipeline Company has expressed concern about the growth of Tanzania as an alternative importation route for petroleum products. The company says higher costs associated with importing oil through the northern corridor could push Uganda and other landlocked countries to the port of Dar es Salaam. Kenya Pipeline estimates that it could lose 2.6 billion shillings per month. Not only that, other organizations such as the Mombasa Port and the Tax Collection Authority may also be affected. This comes just 1 week after the Ugandan parliament passed a law to allow the country to buy its oil through the port of Dar es Salaam instead of Kenya. And 6 years after Solai Dam burst, killing 48 people and leaving a trail of destruction, the ODPP has sought to have the criminal case withdrawn. Under a certificate of urgency, the ODPP said that the victims and those accused had reached an out-of-court settlement with families who lost adults, getting 1.2 million and minors 800,000 shillings from the farm owner. This emerged during the ongoing trial where Perry Masuk, who is a director at Solai Farm, and 8 others were charged with 48 counts of manslaughter on the 8th May 2018 and failing to prepare an environmental impact assessment report. The magistrate will give a ruling on this today. Former South Sea MCN Nairobi Governors John Sakaja's key liaison officer Osman Khalif Abdi has finally been released following his kidnapping at a Nairobi mall earlier this month. Senior counsel Ahmed Nasir, who made the announcement on Twitter, posted a photo of himself and Osman after meeting in his office. Ahmed Nasir accused a powerful politician of being behind the latter's kidnapping. This event comes as the court had ordered for the release of Osman following a complaint filed by his wife. Some education stakeholders now want to hold a meeting with the Ministry of Education on discussions around the uncertainty of whether grades 7, 8 and 9 students should remain in junior secondary or move to senior secondary. KUPPET Secretary General Omboko Melembe says that if the government doesn't change the plan, then the students will continue to stay in primary schools, which means that there'll be a shortage of teachers and the infrastructure present won't be able to cater for the high number.
At a time when the government is grappling with numerous financial struggles, including university funding, employment of teachers, and the establishment of infrastructure, it beats logic that the country is now planning to build facilities like laboratories in primary schools when this already exists in secondary.
KUPPET Deputy Chairman Julius Korir on his part says that 1 year since the CBC curriculum was implemented, the standards of education still remain poor.
Alafu mwalimu ambaye anafunza JSS alipokuwa Okoh University alifunzwa somo viwili. Mwingine amefunzwa Kiingereza na literature. Mwingine amefunzwa Kiswahili labda na jiografia. Alafu nachukua mwalimu kama huyo, alafu namwambia afunze science.
Shipments of the world's first WHO recommended malaria vaccine, that is RTS-S, have begun with 331,200 doses landing in Cameroon. A further 1.7 million doses of the RTS-S vaccine are expected to arrive in Burkina Faso, Liberia, Niger and Sierra Leone in the coming weeks, with additional African countries set to receive doses in the months ahead. Since 2019, Ghana, Kenya and Malawi have been administering the vaccine in a schedule of 4 doses from around 4 months of age in selected districts as part of the pilot program known as the Malaria Vaccine Implementation Program. And in the international scene, 41 workers have been trapped for 11 days near the mouth of a tunnel in India's Uttarakhand state. As of Wednesday evening, just 12 meters of debris separated 41 workers from freedom. The workers were building the tunnel when a part of it caved in on the 12th of November due to a landslide. Authorities have been supplying the trapped men with oxygen, food and water through a pipeline. That's the Newswire. I'm Lea Obaga.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, on the Thika Super Highway, traffic is heavy coming into the CBD, and we're also seeing some of that then going in west, Limuru Road, then coming through towards Lower Kabete, everybody heading out to Westlands and then into the CBD. Gong Road, very busy inbound to the city, and we're also looking at traffic heavy on Jogo Road, heading towards Landis, and then touching a little bit on the Kamkunji roundabout. Langata Road started building up a while ago, but we're seeing just a little bit of that at the exit at the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and some of that going towards Raila Odinga Way. Also, there's pack up of traffic coming in from Cabanas, North Airport Road, touching on Outer Ring, and then out towards Embakasi. So all of that happening at the same time equals what? Traffic hour proper. Okay, let's see what happens in about 30 minutes or so, but we're getting into Thursday strong. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X as we keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room,
So
the
yes,
only way to
tomorrow
start
morning,
your day.
From 10 a.m., from 9 a.m., watch KTN as the Chief Justice delivers the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report to the country and the world. And we shall also be launching the blueprint on the social transformation through access to justice. This is a strategy that she came in with when she assumed office as Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. KCP results are coming out today, right?
Yes.
And then Form 1 will be in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes. Form 1 placements, they say by Christmas Day.
Placement by Christmas. So reporting by second week or so
Like this.
of January.
No, first week of February.
First week of
To
February.
school. Yes.
Okay. So what will they be doing the whole of January?
They continue what they're doing right now. Eating us
just-
out of house and home.
Just chilling.
Yes.
Hey. Okay. But then that's the time when they'll be doing everything else. They'll be receiving the letters of admission to the schools, and they'll be getting all those letters from the head teacher saying, we need you to come with a basketball, a volleyball, a hockey ball, a hockey stick, 2 pairs of socks for the weekend, 2 pairs of socks for Sunday, 2 pairs of socks, 2 polo necks, a tie for dinner, a tie for breakfast, a tie for class.
Yes.
And that is all school fees. But then Kiwi is telling you, what? We understand.
We have seen your pressure and we still want you to shine. So Kiwi says, okay, go to any supermarket. This is what you have to do to contribute to this process. Go to any supermarket, pick up the new logo, Kiwi tin. Now, when you buy that, there's a code on the Starburst that you will dial, *459 *5#. And then when you pop the lid, there will be a code under the lid. You input that when you're doing the thing, and you will win instant airtime or data. You can keep talking, keep figuring out what's going on. The sweet spot here is that it also gets you into a draw. 4 people every week are winning 35,000 shillings for school fees. Now, depending on which school you are in, 35,000 shillings is basically your fees. Imagine. So, Kiwi, buy it today, school fees equals done.
But
Step up and shine.
it's all sorted.
Right.
Where? Yeah, Christmas comes early.
I tell you.
Yeah, all you need to do is buy Kiwi and eat Christmas.
Eat Christmas. And
Buy
enjoy it.
Kiwi
Taken care of.
and eat Christmas in peace. If your money you have cannot solve the problems you have,
Eat that
money. Okay, let's talk about digitalization of education now. Another way in an education conversation. We're joined by 2 guests, and they have experience from Estonia. Annie Sild is the CEO of BCS Digital Skills Academy. Good morning, Annie.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Auntie Ramo is the founder and CEO of Star Cloud LLC. Auntie, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
It's great
that
to be here.
Right there, Auntie, is the hot seat. Of
Yes,
the
I see a lot
Situation
of buttons in front of me, so I try to hold back.
To welcome you into this conversation, CT has the day's proverb.
Yes, and our proverbs for the whole of this week ending tomorrow are from the Republic of Namibia. A beautiful country. Envy and green grow from the same stalk.
Envy and green grow from the same stalk. Auntie, when you hear this proverb, what do you think it says?
I think it says something like that the beautiful things and life is something that is both something that is desirable, but there is also a choice of envy that might come with it, or even some natural reaction towards beauty and life that also come with it. So it's something like that.
Annie, what's your interpretation?
Yeah, my thoughts go towards it's actually what you make out of it. It doesn't matter where you come from, but it's your own actions maybe that get you where you will be at the end or with your future.
Interesting.
Absolutely, isn't it? You know, the beauty of interpretation, especially when you asked for your opinion, you can't possibly be wrong, because that is your interpretation. And that is good. And so it is correct.
Yes.
And thank you.
And thank you for this really, really good proverb.
You're welcome.
You two are here so that we can get some perspectives of what you do and also what happens in your country, Estonia. We've hosted a former president of your country, and we've had conversations with even other Estonians on the digitization journey for Estonia. Many of the services in Estonia are digitized, government services and other services. That makes Estonia one of the most connected communities, right, in terms of accessing services from government and all. And then we come into our education system, and there's been a conversation about getting our education system in digital platforms and a way. So let's begin with, in terms of education, how is education accessed and used in Estonia? Are children going to school with laptops, with tablets? Do they learn from home? Is there like homeschooling, just a teacher in school, and wherever you are, we just log on at 8 a.m. and is math paper 1 or subject math 1? What happens?
So maybe I can start a bit, and you can complement if something comes up. Well, I think it's more about schools are actually quite independent in their decision on how they implement specifically technology and tablets and so on. But it's more like the general background that is very digital. So when a child goes to school, they are already also digitally become as an identity for the school and the whole education system. So it begins already when the children are joining the schools. This means that each and every child has a digital identity that is connected to the school, and all school work that happens, whether it's homework, whether it's attendance, is digitally, the information is digitally available all the time. And how then the children use, for example, digital learning materials, whether they are doing it at home or at school, it really depends on the teacher and what works for the specific learning activities. But the main thing is that the schools are well equipped with the digital infrastructure, so they are free to make choices on how to implement the technology. So I would say this is maybe the...
Let's start a little bit back. Let's start with this digital identity.
Mm-hmm.
What is a digital identity?
So in Estonia, every person has a digital identity.
Okay.
So we can be identified with digital means. So this also makes possible to vote digitally for parliament, for example.
Let's take an example. Here I am, full-bodied, ancient, old African. How do I get myself to be digitally identified? Because you don't have to look at me to know that I exist. You can see me, okay? Now, the digital form of it, what does it look like? How do I become digitally recognizable?
Maybe I want to explain, or I can try.
Well, basically, I think it all starts when you are born in Estonia. You get the personal ID code, and you will be automatically put in the system. And if Antti was talking about the digital identity in schools, for the pupils or the learners, it means that they have an email address with the school's domain, and with this they have kind of access to all the resources, all the platforms that the school uses. And without that, we have had schools and in the past this situation as well. It is really difficult to organize the digital learning if you're not in the kind of...
So when someone is born, they're given a code. So, and it is unique to you. It is yours.
Well, I think it's same in Kenya or in any other country, that each individual who is a citizen of this country has a identity code, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it is in some register. In our case, we have, let's say, this agreement and trust in the digital technology in such a way that we also trust the digital identities that we have. And we use those identities for different government services to identify people in different scenarios, and education is just one of those, but also healthcare and all kinds of different government services for voting and so on, for social services. We use the same basically digital identity to say that this person has this and this right or this and this service available. So it's just something that is agreed in the society, that this is something we use and we trust.
Is there a document within which that identity is carried? I'm looking, let me give you an example of what I mean. This is my identity card.
An ID.
Yes, we have the same. I can show what mine looks like. It's pretty much the same.
Yes.
So it is this one.
Yes.
But this identity can also be not only on this card, but I can identify myself what we call mobile ID. So the same convention of this identity can be used on my mobile device as well, because I have a unique code that I know only myself, and I can identify myself through this PIN or this password.
And this is within a system within government, so that when I want government services, for instance, if I present this card, they will automatically know all these things about me.
Yes, basically yes. But I don't even have to have this card. I can ID myself with my what we call the mobile ID. So, and this is trusted as well as this card itself. And I'm able to vote, for example, choose a parliament member, thanks to having this ID.
So, what has it allowed life to become? And this is the question here. As you get into the point where you're born and you have this digital ID, right? And getting into education, obviously, from a child, what age do children start school in Estonia? 7 years old,
8, yeah.
right? So what does it then allow children to do? Let's look at the education from an education perspective. How has it changed, or how has it made the education experience more seamless, or what are some things that have been realized as a result of having this identification?
Yeah, I think this identification is a very important start to having this very efficient way of administrating the pupils, the education system, and you know, wider areas of society as well. But in education specifically, it's you know, it's easier to explain from the parent point of view, for example. It becomes a communication platform between home and school, for example. You have very transparent way of teaching and learning and getting information about what is happening in school. And for example, when the child changes the school, goes to another school, you will still have this level of service of communication and transparency that you have at any other school, for example. Even when, for example, those information systems that the schools use are different, but the basis, the way of identification, of sharing information, of access is the same. So I, as a citizen or as a parent or as a child, have this, let's say, some basic level of quality of service and transparency and access and efficiency in the system all the time. So I guess this is the main benefit if we look at it from the very global
those layers
perspective.
So for example, your company, StarCloud LLC, what does it do? And how does it play into this conversation that we're talking about?
Yes, because it's a good question, because those questions you have asked so far are quite complex in terms of, let's say, infrastructure and building these identity systems. And our service, StarCloud, relies a lot on this kind of infrastructure to be there. So what we do is we provide schools with digital learning environment, with digital learning materials, and this environment enables pupils, teachers to access high quality learning content and use it in a digital environment, whether it happens in school or it happens at home, they always have an access to high quality learning content, high quality learning environment. So for example, when school closes down, it has not so much effect on their learning quality than it would have in other way.
What's its content? Who puts it there? Who vets it?
The content is, I would say, in schools, it's crucial. We know that how important are textbooks in school in assuring the quality of education. And what we do, we work with educational publishers, local educational publishers, who provide learning materials to this environment. And in Kenya's case, we work with Kenyan educational publishers because the content needs to be aligned with the local curricula. So the school has the assurance of quality of content, the assurance of alignment to the curricula. So even when using digital materials, the same goals, the same learning outcomes should be achieved what the curricula in this specific country stands for. So this is what we...
Okay. So once the content is on a digital platform, and this then comes to you, Annie, then we're talking about the tutors being able to access it and the learners being able to access it, and the tutor can then teach the learner, not necessarily having to use a textbook, but accessing information from this digital space. Let's say it's stored somewhere on a cloud. So what's innovative about that, Annie?
I think it's more a question to...
Yeah, I will be gladly answer this. I think there is a lot, but we need to always remember that why school is there in the first place. Why we go to school. Why we need to deliver education to our generation that comes after us. And the digital services that we create and the content that we make available, and this goes the same way for this, let's say, more what we talked about, these identity systems. They serve always the same purpose, or at least they should. And in education terms, this means that we want our children or the generation that comes after us to have certain knowledge, certain skills, certain views that they could use in their life and to build the society. So the digital service has exactly those same goals. However, when we try to compare, okay, what is the added value that the digital brings, then there is so many of those points you can bring out. For example, the level of access to knowledge and education is far greater in digital forms than it is in any analog format. Imagine a simple example. A book you must carry in your bag to reach the text, to reach the exercise, to reach the learning activity. With a digital material, it's always with you, wherever you are. And you have endless amounts. You can never fit so many books in a bag that you can fit in a cloud. This is one of the most obvious aspects, of course. But let's go forward from there. The digital space, we already say that we identify ourselves before we get into any digital environment, which means it's already personal. The system knows it is IT who is logging in, which means that we are able to make these learning activities and the materials very personal to this user. And this raises the efficiency of acquiring knowledge of your education journey, because it is more relevant to you personally. And this is how we are able to fulfill the potential of each child, of each school more efficiently. So what we want from the digital services is just the same things, in a way, what we have wanted all the time from the education system, but we can be more efficient with it, more personal.
Okay, let's get to the brass tacks. Now tell me, what is a typical what does a typical Estonian classroom look like?
Yes, I want to bring it to the ground. Like in Estonia, we still have classrooms. We have teachers. They actually exist. We have students sitting in a classroom. They usually don't carry a personal tablet or computer to the school. There are computer labs in the school, same as here.
We don't have computer labs in our schools. The majority of our schools don't have. But let's go on with the conversation. Yes.
They have the schools have tablets, like tablets that you can move around from classroom to classroom. They do some tasks online, but they also do very much socializing with textbooks, work with textbooks. I can give you a really practical example. We were on holidays with our family just a few weeks ago. It wasn't a school holiday, but the school is really okay that my child studies 2 weeks somewhere else. She gets all the learning content from the cloud, the digitalized system. She's able to communicate with the teachers. They are really, active in response. She's able to do some assessments online. But as Antti said, it's the schools have the option to choose. And of course, there are some schools with whom it's not okay that the student just, goes away for 2 weeks and then returns.
Yeah, I think if to summarize with any technology, it's not, in most cases, it's not that the technology comes and fully replaces whatever has there been before. It builds on top. And then there becomes this variety and raised efficiency. And then time will decide, and the personal choices will decide what of those technologies and ways of working will be the most prevalent, or how this, let's say, puzzle comes together. So it's not either this or that. It's most of the time it is the variety and then these personal preferences that decide how the technology is used.
Time for us to take a break, and then we come back and continue this conversation. Antti Ramo is the founder and CEO of Star Cloud LLC. Ani Sild is the CEO of BCS Digital Skills Academy. They are from Estonia, and they're giving us the experience, the Estonian case study of what digitalization of education looks like and how it would look like. We'll continue this conversation shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Looking for that perfect Christmas gift? Look no further than Tease the Season. This year, we have a pop-up Christmas market at the Junction Rooftop on Saturday, December 9th and Sunday, December 10th from noon to 5 p.m. The best part? Entry is absolutely free. There will be plenty of fantastic vendors to help you start your Christmas shopping, as well as fun activities for the kids and performances from your favorite Tease the Season artists all day long. Don't forget, the main show starts at 7 p.m, so be sure to purchase your tickets at ticketsasa.com. So, what are you waiting for? Make your plan and let's dive into the season the Kenyan way. Tease the Season, a very Kenyan Christmas.
Fly better to your dream destination with Emirates. Whether it's seeing Big Ben and the famous red buses in London, family adventures in Dubai, or discovering ancient wonders and bazaars in Istanbul. But remember, it's not just about where you're going, it's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates and start your holiday with delicious regional dining, complimentary drinks, outstanding service, and award-winning entertainment. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
Drizzly conditions in Nairobi, 16 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 15, and we'll see lows of 15 as well, and a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 17. It's 18 and partly cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 23 in Eldoret, where it's cloudy at 16. Into a partly sunny Mombasa at 26. Rain is coming down though in a while. 30 will be the high, and we'll see highs of 31 in a partly cloudy Malindi at 27. Kisumu was cloudy at 24, highs of 28, and mostly cloudy conditions at 22 in Kakamega, going to highs of 28. Let's look into a partly cloudy Kampala at 21 with highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly cloudy Dar es Salaam at 24. Looking into Johannesburg, where it is sunny at 23 with highs of 31, and in Mogadishu, rain showers this morning at 27 with highs of 30, and it's sunny at 15 in Addis Ababa with highs of 23. Lagos is mostly cloudy at 26 with highs of 31, and it's mostly cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa with highs of 30 and lows of 24.
Spice up your life.
All right, still continues, and we are in traffic hour. It's not too bad from what we see. Use your bypasses this morning; they'll do you good. It's not too heavy coming off Mombasa Road as you get towards the Nyeri Stadium Junction, and then out towards Huru Highway. At your junctions is where you see the most of the movement, and that's Lusaka, and then Bunyala, and then thereafter it's Haile Selassie. It's really busy coming in towards the Globe Cinema overpass as you're coming from Pangani and then towards Ngara. Apart from that, it's actually not too bad on the Thika Super Highway this morning. Limuru Road, building here and there, but more or less you'll be able to get through it without a scratch. Let's talk Spice FM KE on X.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Digitizing education or digitalizing education. Antti Ramo is the founder and CEO of Star Cloud LLC, and Anil Sid is the CEO of BCS Digital Skills Academy, both from Estonia, giving us the experience from Estonia. First of all, as we were preparing for this conversation, we kept having a debate. Digitization versus digitalization. Which is which? Annie?
And what does each mean?
Well, we know that the terms is an awful subject because everyone mixes them up, and that's why I think it's not very important to get stuck in them. But to my mind, digitization is, for example, if we take the textbooks, if we just rewrite them in a digital format and don't do anything with our other processes, other things that we do, and we use it the same way as we did the original textbooks. For me, this is digitization. Digitalization, is if we then change something and we get more out of the digital format. We use different ways of assessment. We access them differently. The teachers do something different. This is my interpretation.
Okay. Your company, Digital Skills Academy, what does it do?
Yes, so we are focusing on the skills part. If we were talking about the e-governance system, or Antti was talking about the learning content, in order for this to work, you need the people to have the right skills. If you just buy devices or build the infrastructure and the people don't know how to use it, it's pointless. So we have been in digital skills development over 30 years now. Nowadays we're mostly in adult learning. We also, the target group for us is also teachers. And here in Kenya, we have the pleasure to be working together with the private schools, Kenyan Private Schools Association, in terms of, or with figuring out together what would be the next steps in the digital roadmap for private schools.
What does that training involve? When you say you're training teachers, okay, you must have a curriculum for training teachers.
Yes, we have many curriculums.
Good. Why are there many curriculums?
Nowadays, people want to learn what they need at that time. In Estonia, anyway, they are not very much, if we're talking about working people, they're not very much into long curriculums. They have a task they need to fulfill at work. So, okay, and I have an obstacle. I don't have the skills. So they go after training for, 2 hours. Maybe they even watch a 5-minute video to get past this obstacle. So we really are trying to figure out what's the problem of the teachers or any other target group we're dealing with, and then give them the exact skills that they need at that time.
So the skill is for the teacher to understand how the system works. And also how to ensure that it helps them in the functions of teaching. Absolutely,
yes. Even yesterday, when we were at Lily's Academy, we had a training for the KPSA schools leaders and ICT teachers. And Antti was doing his presentation. One of the participants pointed out that, okay, but we have the system, but what about the skills? So to actually leverage any kind of digital system, you need to have the skills with it and enable to get most out of the system.
See, here we now get to subject teachers, because a school curriculum has many subjects. Now, you mentioned ICT teachers. I assume that the teachers were involved with the department in school that deals with ICT. But now, when you talk about digitalizing, everyone has to understand how these systems work. Because before this, it's only the ICT department that were concerned with ICT matters. But now, everyone has to understand it. How do you transition all this so that it fits in with the subjects that are taught in the schools?
Exactly, you make a very good point. And we always, or now more often, ask what is ICT or what is not ICT. If we talk about, for example, accountants, is their work related to ICT or not? Or
it is.
It is. So basically, we can say this to every topic. In Estonia, ICT skills are taught horizontally in every subject. So if we talk about mathematics or sciences, or this teacher is responsible for giving the skills of ICT in this field as well.
Okay. How do you see, because I think a lot of times when we think about the, mechanics of doing all of this, without looking at how it has actually affected output, then sometimes it's difficult to then see the benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. A good point.
Yeah. So how do we see that it has actually affected the delivery of a quality education by going into the digital sphere?
I think it's for the teacher, for example, if the question was about how, let's say, a biology or social studies teacher will, what kind of attitude he or she will have towards this new technology and how you kind of argument the benefit of it. So it has to be, of course, there are these basic digital skills and some basic attitudes towards trying out new things and technology for that matter. But most importantly, the subject teacher needs to have the feeling that the teaching of this specific subject that they love or what they are professional in will benefit. So you see more, let's say, spark in the eyes of the pupils. You will have your workflows that will be more efficient. You will spend less time on work that is a big part of the teacher's work that is not tied to the subject, making assessments or putting in some reports or whatever. So this is a possibility for the teacher to really engage more with the teaching activity and the subject as such. So if the person understands that those technologies will enable this, so by like a miracle, I have, let's say, 1 hour more of time in my day, in each of my day. Imagine how much this affects your life. And if you manage to communicate that and prove that this is very realistic goal for you after obtaining these skills that takes you maybe a day or two, maybe a week, and the whole life will change. And it's not only yourself, but all of your students as well. So the effect is really, really big, actually.
But it's still the fact that before you come to the situation that Antti just described, you will have the frustration. It will take you longer to, get to know these things, and it's very normal. And some of the teachers in Estonia are still going through that phase. But you can't reach the perfect picture.
I think there is a really important
steps.
part here also, that this is something that we do collectively. It's not one person in school having taking the journey alone, trying to go through all these obstacles. It's something we do together, we learn together, we do it collectively. And then it will be even bigger effect. So I guess that's also how it's done in Estonia, that it's a really collective effort.
And there is a position in Estonian schools called educational technologist. And this is what we actually see would very much benefit Kenyan schools as well. Educational technologist is someone who drives the going digital thing. They support the teachers in choosing the tools, in accepting the situation, dealing with all the maybe technical aspects of it. And this is kind of the support system that schools generally provide to the teachers.
I'm hearing something that's holistic and global when it comes to Estonia. So let me just give you a situation in Kenya. Tell me what is similar and what is dissimilar with what you have in Estonia. So in Kenya, of course, we have the Ministry of Education, we have the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development, and we've got the schools, public, private schools. We have the learners. We have teachers who are employed by the government through the Teacher Service Commission. We have textbooks that are approved by the Ministry of Education and KICD for use in schools. So we already have a curriculum and we have content designed, and teachers know this is the content and this is how you pass on the information to the learners. Then we have very many startups on the digital space that are there to try and to digitize the content and make it available to learners in various ways. Some have this innovation of, we are able to give you access to not only the prescribed textbook learning material, but also other interactive learning material for students. So various models of accessing it, whether you're paying monthly, whether you're paying this and the other. Okay, so various startups playing in this space, but not one that is harmonized from top at the ministry and said, so these are the textbooks, this is the digital journey, and this is how you shall access it. We also have the whole process of trying to make sure that all schools have access and all learners have access to digital devices. It's an ongoing process. Hasn't reached where it ought to have reached. So, this is Kenya. Now, tell us, in Estonia, how is it? Start from the ministry.
I think, first of all, Estonia is a much smaller society, a lot less territory, a lot less people. So this already affects if you have a policy or if you have some program or whatever, this already affects this capacity to make changes. However, I think in large part what I see in Kenya, that there is a curriculum, there is a more strict approval process to the learning content that comes from KICD. But this is where, let's say, the biggest difference seems to be in terms of learning content. Or the structure of it. There is a variety of publishers, there is a lot of choice for the schools, and in addition to the orange list, the schools have a lot of freedom to choose the learning materials they want to use. So this is quite similar. However, our school system is very, how you say in English, the level of the schools in terms of learning outcomes, learning environment as such is very, it's the same across the board. So it doesn't matter if you go to a city school, which school you go.
Okay.
It is very common. You get basically 95% of the same level of education. And we do not have such private school sector. It's only, I might be mistaken, but it's maximum 10%, or even if that, it can be a lot less. So most of the schools are state funded and state owned schools.
So essentially, what you're saying is that it doesn't matter where you are, infrastructure, teaching, learning, understanding is going to be replicated in the same manner. It doesn't matter where in the country you are. So there's a standard that's applied across board. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the standard is, of course, the curricula, and the schools have a lot of freedom on how they will transfer this curricula to deliver it. But the funding of the schools and providing the schools with the infrastructure, the school environment is very, very similar across the board. And it's kind of, for the parent, it's very easy to select the school that is closest, and you can be sure that it has
quality will be the same.
Yes, it's the same.
Now, when it comes to then putting material on the digital platform, is it a government policy that you will have access to textbooks and the same material plus more on digital?
Yes, it is a government policy.
And the government provides the infrastructure for that as well.
In regards of infrastructure from the school perspective, well, it's I don't know, maybe you can explain this a bit better, because schools have a lot of responsibility of their own, but some basic connections, some basic level of infrastructure is centrally provided. But historically, how has it been developing? We can say quite with confidence that all schools are connected, but there is differences in if the school can, for example, purchase these tablets or have fully digital materials for all children. Then this depends on the budget of the municipality who provides for the schools.
Let me just pause. Municipalities have come in. Municipalities are part of government.
Municipalities.
Or how is Estonia constituted? You have a national government. Okay. Then from the national government, do you have municipalities, towns? We have counties? What do you have?
We have municipalities.
And who funds municipalities?
The taxpayer in the municipality, and then the government.
So government gives it some money. The locals who live there give it some money.
Yes.
What's the percentage?
To be honest, I can't.
You don't know.
Yes, I don't know.
Right.
But in the case of schools, the government provides. We have per each. If we talk about learning materials, for example, each student, we have this what we call head money.
We call it capitation here.
And then it's per each pupil that the government provides for the municipality for their pupils.
Is it the same amount?
It's the same amount across, and even if you are a private school, you also get the same amount.
So it means if that is the same amount and it's meant for what? Learning materials?
For learning content.
Exactly. So it means every school in Estonia has, or every student who wants to learn in any school in Estonia has the same opportunity and the same...
Yes, the basic is the same, yes.
Okay, now the infrastructure bit. Who pays for it? Is it the government, the municipality?
It's also a bit of mixture. So some things are centrally developed. There is a lot of course, we have used a lot of European funds to build infrastructure. Then the municipalities are different in their approach and their budgetary possibilities to invest into this infrastructure. So there is variety there. So it's not all 100% the same, but let's say some basics are equal across the board.
So municipalities that are able to raise more money will have more money at their disposal to do more things for the students.
Yes, that's
right. But the basics are the same.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Let me come back to Kenya. This process that we're talking about, digitalizing, for how long has it been happening in Kenya?
Well, I'm certain it has been happening many years before we came here with
Yes.
our company and our services, but I'm not sure. You probably know,
I know.
it better.
It started in 2020.
Mhm.
Okay? And I am aware that we have digitalized books that are already in place for use. There are around 119 of those books that I know. Now, how do we ensure that the students access these books?
And it's a huge challenge on your education system because there is so much of students. The schools are very different. The territory is large. So these challenges are very diverse. So first of all, in order to access the learning content, or the school for that matter that has a digital, let's say, that is available also digitally, you need connection. You need to think of ways how you are able to connect the learners, the teachers to this infrastructure. So, and I think it is actually a huge opportunity to raise the accessibility of the education itself, because it's much harder in a long term to carry physical objects, books around a big territory than to have a good connectivity and everybody can access on the same level these digital services.
Okay.
With the current project that we are doing with Kenyan private schools, we have been discussing, and the main goal or outcome of the project that we are running is to figure out the very specific project ideas, like step 1, 2, that will get you to the next level. And what we have found out to be the key point is that the schools need to come together. And of course we are very much talking about connectivity and devices, that the schools need to have devices, but they are expensive. So just an example to give you, if all the schools or maybe private schools come together and make a big purchase together, they will get 3, 5, 10 times lower prices than they would get doing it school by school. So just an example that schools need to, we have figured out that schools need to come together in order to reach the next...
But that's where the association comes in, isn't it? Because if you have a private schools association, there will be a parent body who can coordinate the activities that you're saying. And even the government schools have an association. So the key then, if you were to work with the government, as you work with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, would be to also work with the association that deals with government schools.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
have you dealt with, or have you had contact with the association that deals with government schools?
Not yet directly.
Not yet directly?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have had contacts with, of course, private schools, public schools, so to understand what are the challenges, what are the differences. So this process is, of course, ongoing.
See, why we asked at the beginning the role that the Ministry of Education plays in all this, because once the Ministry of Education has onboarded and has accepted this is a process that they're working with, and they work with publishers, and these publishers publish books that are used in both private and public schools, then the association that deals with the public schools would make your life easier, because they know their members, they can get in touch with their members easier, and whatever information that is required or needed to be passed along, they would do it a lot easier.
I absolutely agree. Yes, this is how it works. This collective effort makes it possible to make the change.
And it's very interesting what you said about parents. We have figured out that parents play a really big role in Kenyan learners' life in education. In Estonia, it's a bit different.
How?
How so?
Of course, we support our children, and me as a mom want to be very involved. But we have had the understanding then that here how actually the learner succeeds in the studies is actually a lot to do with the parents, how they can support because is it so that a lot is from the teachers, a lot is left for the parents to do?
We have an education system that has some demands on the parents, yes, that is true. But even beyond that, there is a simple thinking behind it. The education is perceived as the one thing that you can give to your child, and that will enable them to do things that perhaps the parents could not do in their time. So the focus on education, as you correctly put it, yes, Kenyan parents put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus on the learning of their children. Now, the fundamental difference is perhaps the government of Estonia carries that burden.
Yep.
And here is the parents that tend to share that burden with the government. That is putting it very politely. Yes.
I think that's coming out as one of the key things.
Yes.
The government has been talking about, digitizing and going digital in terms of our education system, has been making strides towards it, but probably it's what is required from them is more ownership.
Yes.
We have a lot of private sector players, which is good, who come into this space, such as your company and other startups that are even Kenyan. But then there needs to be that proper coordination, so that then, just the same way the government has coordinated the entire publishing sector, so they know that you are the publishers, yes, we shall approve your books through KICD, and this is the material that shall go to schools. Same way that we are also going to have a digital stream, and this is how it shall be. People shall plug into it, and how then the learners shall get the material out of it. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation. It's been an interesting one, getting the experience and context from Estonia. Annie Sild is the CEO of BCS Digital Skills Academy, and Antti Ramo is the founder and CEO of Star Cloud LLC. They've been our guests this morning. Keep it here for more. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Education CS Ezekiel Mashogu has arrived at the new NEC headquarters in South B, where he'll officiate the release of the last KCPE results. Candidates who sat for this year's KCPE exams are set to know what they scored as they prepare to join secondary school. About 1.4 million candidates undertook their KCPE exams, and about 1.2 million did their KPSEA exams. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has left the country for Equatorial Guinea to participate at the summit of the Committee of 10 of the African Union heads of state and government on the reform of the United Nations Security Council. Gachagua will represent President William Ruto at the ongoing summit. The DP will tomorrow deliver a statement on behalf of Kenya on why the reforms of the UNSC need to be accelerated for equitable representation of Africa through expansion of the membership, among other issues. Detectives in Nairobi have initiated probe into the tragic death of a 25-year-old woman whose body was discovered in Embakasi, Nairobi. A police report said the victim's lifeless body was found discarded in a sack within makeshift structures in Embakasi's Kware area on Wednesday at approximately 11:30 a.m. The discovery was made when two police officers conducting a routine patrol in the Stage Mpya vicinity were alerted by members of the public about the suspicious sack. Preliminary investigations revealed strangulation marks on the victim's neck, accompanied by blood stains on the nose and ears. Police officials are searching for the body of their colleague who died by suicide in a waterfall in Nyeri County. Constable Dennis Githinji is said to have jumped into the Domboche waterfalls after he had thrown his mobile phone into the same place on Wednesday afternoon. Police said he was in the company of two of his friends when the incident happened, and this is the latest incident of suicide in the service. Police suicides have been on the rise, and most are blamed on stress and work-related trauma. The Eldoret High Court will today determine whether the contested will by the late prominent Uasin Gishu politician cum farmer Jackson Kibor should be subjected to a forensic examination expert to determine the validity of the document. The disputed will has caused a rift in the late tycoon's family, with some disgruntled family members challenging the validity of the document, while the deceased's youngest wife, Unita Kibor, maintains that it is valid. Through their team of 10 lawyers, the 29 objectors had asked the court to make a ruling on the authenticity of the contested will purported to have been drafted and signed by their late father before he died. The Senate Committee on Health will this morning convene to address Senator James Murango's concerns about the amputation of Bibi Yasir Noor's fingers at Keregoya County Referral Hospital. The committee will also discuss Senator Murango's statement on the delayed construction of the Kemri Wamumu Station Medical Facility in Kirinyaga County. Representatives from Bibi Yasir's family, the Ministry of Health, the County Government of Kirinyaga, KMPDC, and Kenya Medical Research Institute will participate in the discussions. A 32-year-old man based in Voi Town, Taita Taveta County, will serve 20 years in jail for defiling a 15-year-old girl. Bryson Mwangala, a casual worker, is alleged to have defiled the girl on February 6th in Lokichogio village in Maungu. Chief Magistrate Mildred Obura ruled that the case had been proven and that Mwangala failed to disassociate himself from the offence of defilement. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Traffic has not done too badly today. On the Thika Superhighway, we're just seeing some of it then left at that Pangani Underpass area heading into the city. Gong Road, very good. No problems here. We're moving along well into the CBD. Landis Road is what will cause you a little bit of a hold up as you're trying to get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. And then Uhuru Highway, of course, as we get into the city. Raila Odinga Way is taking some traffic off of Langata Road, and the rest of it then going out towards the Nyeri Stadium junction. Let's see. By the time we, still raining, drizzle here and there. But let's see what happens as we come closer to the end of traffic hour. But for now, I think we're all right. We'll talk on Spice FM KE on X. Talk to us there as we keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Getting on to the final hour of The Situation Room this morning. We've heard from the news that the Education CS Ezekiel Machogu has arrived at this venue.
South Sea here, the new Kenya National Mtihani House, the new one in South Sea, amidst the floods.
He's landed.
Yes.
He's coming now to announce
fellow Kenyans
where we have looked at the exams. You're about to renounce the results. KCPE
and
KPSEA. All the best to all the candidates that sat this exam this year. The future is just beginning. And then to all the parents, the future is also coming in February when they go to Form 1.
Reality, ding dong. Yo, have you gone to look for Kiwi? Because it might help. The pressure of getting into Form 1 and thinking, oh my God, the school fees I have to pay, yes. So step up and shine with Kiwi, where you will find this being sold. Supermarkets, corner duka, whatever it is. Pick up a tin of this and then take your phone, dial *459 *5 hash. There's a code under the lid. You will win instant airtime or data once you finish the business of dialing the code, right?
Like that.
I'm telling you, immediately. And then after that immediate, you will also then get a chance to enter into the draw. 35,000 shillings being won by 4 people every week. And it goes directly to school fees. So it's not even a worry like, all right, they're going to give me 35,000 bucks and then I will maybe use it for something else that comes up. No. It will go directly to school. So it's cut, dry, paste, finish, and you'll be fine. Step up and shine. Do it now with Kiwi.
Namna hiyo.
Yeah.
City.
Yes,
please remind us today's proverb.
Yes.
From Namibia.
Yes. Envy and green grow from the same stalk.
Envy and green grow from the same stalk. Story. The headline in the Standard today is Puzzle of El Nino Billions. Government set aside 10 billion shillings to mitigate the effects of heavy rains. However, county governments have been told to adjust their allocations to help victims. Governors are up in arms, but the DP is adamant as the big boys trade blame Wananchi are the grass they are suffering. Where is the money? Deputy President Gachagua was in Mombasa the day before yesterday, on Tuesday. Yeah? Today is Thursday, yes.
Yes, he was on
the
Tuesday.
Day before yesterday. He was in Mombasa, just like that. No local governor present, no local MP present, distributing foodstuff. And they said...
And mattresses.
Nimetoa madege. Madege, sasa mnyi magavana mtoe shakura. Ya kupeleka kwa watu. Yes. And it says, you know what, we have disbursed the government has released 10 billion shillings bob for use by county governments in sorting out the disaster for El Nino. Yesterday, the chair of the Council of Governors emerged, flanked by several governors. And she was categorical. She said, we note with concern public utterances that suggest that county governments have received funds from the national government to support the mitigation of the devastating impacts of El Nino rains. The truth of the matter is, we have not. Counties have not received that money. In fact, even in the equitable share, some counties have received money for October, but there are counties that have not received even the money for October. For equitable share, not for special funds to deal with the ongoing disaster. This is what the government was saying. So the governors were saying. The story in the page 2 of the Standard today is saying, despite allocating 4.4 billion shillings to the National Disaster Management Authority in the 2022-2023 supplementary budget, the government insists it has no money to address the floods. Both national and county governments now say they lack funds to assist those impacted by the heavy rains that have cut off parts of the country. On Tuesday, the DP claimed the national government had released 10 billion shillings to the 47 counties for flood mitigation. In the same breath, he told off Mombasa Governor Abdul Samad Nasir for doing little to help flood-hit families in his county. The DP, who was distributing food in Kisauni, demanded that Nasir put development projects on hold and focus on distribution of medical and food aid. But the governor of Mombasa, Abdul Samad, and Siaya Governor James Orengo quickly pointed out that no flood mitigation funds have been disbursed to counties. The Council of Governors also refuted Gachagua's claim that counties received El Nino projects. The council said, so far, no such funds were deployed to counties where floods have killed 52, displaced 80,000 families, and damaged farmlands. We note with concern public utterances that suggest that county governments have received funds from the national government to support the mitigation of the devastating impact of El Nino. We take the position that such utterances are against the spirit of cooperative and collaborative governments as envisioned by the Constitution. This is what Anne Waiguru was saying. It is in such times that we call upon the two levels of government to come together and intensify response strategies to mitigate against the complex risks arising from the heavy rains and flooding, in addition to the existing humanitarian challenges. Back and forth, talk and talk, not a single. The DP himself ametoa dege. See, he just boards a plane and go to these areas.
Are you paying how many hours? 250,000 per hour, and then you're jumping up and down. And then how many hours did it stay and take you back? Look, I'm thinking about all of these barbs that are being traded back and forth. Who's saying what didn't happen?
Yeah.
And we have 80,000 families, not people.
Families.
80,000 families who've woken up in the morning and are living an existence where, like this man in this picture, is wading through water in his house. In his house, and has to move. Property has been destroyed. People have to move to another area. Things actually need to be done. And then again, it just paints a picture. It actually holds a mirror against the true situation. And I'm telling you, if you want to know the situation of a nation at any time, look at its most vulnerable people. At any time, that is the true picture of a nation. The picture can change from today till tomorrow, but at any one time, the person who is the most vulnerable. It doesn't matter if the president is flying all over the place. It doesn't matter if you're releasing KCP results. It doesn't matter, truly, if we're talking about, what are these things they're doing on Bomas?
National dialogue.
All those things don't matter if the face at that point of the most vulnerable looks like this.
Yep.
And that is the situation that we're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Because we will release KCPE results today, and then children will not be able to go to school come January because of 1, 2, 3. And if 5 children out of 1 million don't go to school because they're not able to get from point A to point B, guess what? That's 5 children too much.
That's
5
it.
children too many.
Yeah.
And that is the case. But here we are jumping about, throwing in some silly politics where it doesn't matter.
The truth of the matter is, even if there's anything that's being coordinated by the DP, we don't hear it.
No.
And the fact that all governors, no governor at all is saying, I have received money, it tells you that there is no money that has been sent. Secondly, the fact that we are not seeing it on the ground. We're not seeing exactly how well this thing is coordinated. There's some work being done. Yes, there's a military helicopters going here. There's some food that's being distributed there. But the issue is not coordinated. Disaster response requires coordination. You cannot do disaster response when it's just, piecemeal
It isn't
here and
a
there.
solo activity.
It isn't.
And it isn't an activity that is spurred and moved by words. You have to actually do things. And those things need to be coordinated. They need to be planned for. The people who are supposed to ensure those things get done need to be informed. The resources need to be in place. And coordinated means they're happening at the same time. So if we're going to the northern Kenya, this is what we need. If we're going to eastern Kenya, this is what we need. If it's at the coast, this is what we need. Every part of the country, because this particular problem is in every part of the country.
Exactly. And I was having a conversation with a number of people yesterday, and one question came out categorically. Is it the government's responsibility to make sure that the people who've been displaced by this thing are actually taken care of? And I said, yes. What are you talking about?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is also the responsibility to do so in a coordinated fashion. Some of the food rations that we see being given, let me ask a simple question. Okay. To this individual that you've given a mattress, and that's why I talk about the coordination. It is not that you are giving this relief, it is how you are giving this relief. To the individual, remember, the people who are not in their houses, why are they not there?
And where are they?
They are not there because the houses have been flooded or they've actually been washed away. As in, here there was a house. After the rain, there is no house. That's what we're talking about, and we're not being sensational. That is the true picture. That there are houses that were crafted with mud, they have gone with the rain. Now, if you come and give this individual a mattress and you give them a ration of food that will last them 48 hours, coordination means that, okay, are we doing this for a prolonged period of time? What is going to happen when those rations run out? And all of this is against the backdrop of information that we hope you are using that has been delivered to you by Kenya Met. That over the next 1.5 months, this is what we are going to see. So coordination means that these relief efforts, whether 10 billion was sent, whether it was not sent, whether who received, did not receive, coordination means that for the length of this period, while these individuals and families and communities are not able to restore their shelter, Are we going to take care of them? Will it run into if you say you're going to use schools as has been the practice, are we going to run into the period when schools are going to open on the 9th of January? Because we've been told very clearly that these rains will go until the end of January. That is what coordination means. So when you do some tokenism in terms of food rationing for 48 hours, what happens thereafter? Now you're telling counties, for example, to hold on their development projects. Okay, let's hold on development projects. What is the centrality of strategy that you're using to make sure that folks who've been displaced, folks who have no living conditions to call anything, that they will continue to survive for this period? What is your strategy when the rains stop falling and the pools of water have formed to make sure that disease then does not become an issue? That is what we're talking about. We don't stop until we see some kind of coordination. And like I said yesterday, if you like, take 100 billion and throw at this thing. It won't matter if you don't have a plan. If we don't know what is supposed to happen. Do we know, for example, each and every area where people have been affected? Our friend Alas told us this morning about you can't even enter Mandera now, for example. Roads that were there yesterday are no longer there today.
Yep.
For goodness sake.
Our friend Abdullahi Alas sent us photos this morning of what he's experienced himself. Remember the last time he was here and we were telling him, hey, you've been away. And he told us, yes, I went back home farming.
And he was farming?
Yeah. There's a river near his home. He decided, okay, let's use this river. Let's harvest the water. Let's do some irrigation. That river flooded, plus everything else around that area flooded. We have him on the line. Let's hear from him. Abdullahi, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and City Muga and Okoh.
Good morning.
Good morning. My brother, we have seen the photos that you shared with us this morning. That's
my story.
That is your vehicle that was basically caught up in the floods. It had to be towed. We saw you and other people wading waist deep in the floods. Tell us, where are you and what's happening there?
I'm currently in Mandera town, and the rains have started in different parts of has been raining in the different parts it was flooding. It was no longer, raining. Everywhere was flooding. And as I was listening to the program, some parts of Mandera have been submerged. There's a place called Barwako, and it's partly because of failure of, either people living in waterways or county constructing a dam, and the people who constructed that dam did not think of what if there is El Nino, so that we have waterways, so that this water, the excess water, can take those lines and go through the lagers of the river. And remember, we have been complaining about drought for the last 40 years. So what is happening in northern Kenya is a failure of policy by the national government and the county government, and poor workmanship in the roads. In Mandera now, the only problem we have in the main roads, most of the road is a bit maram and we can struggle. But the problem is Kenya has done some work just 200 meters within the outskirts of Mandera, less than a kilometer. In that place, there are farms, so the waterways have been closed. Some have made them farms. So the water has clogged in the main road, that's the B9. And what happened is there is no information from Kenya, from Kera, from anybody that this area has flooded. There are no signposts. In fact, today I've sent all those details to our lawyer. We are suing Ministry of Transport. I'm suing Kenya. I'm suing Kera because they are supposed to provide signboards telling us the road here is closed, the water is so deep, this is the diversion, sleep in the safe. There is nothing happening. Now, in a place called Kutulo, the last 6 years, every rainy season, we have an issue with a small lake. That's not even more than, they could build like 400 meters over a bridge, then our problems will 90% be resolved. Now, look at the road that has been built between Garissa and Madogashi. Compare that road was built by Chinese. Now compare that with the road built by the European Union and Turkey on Isiolo, Moyale, Marsabit side. That area is more flooding than this area. But because of the strictness of the European Union and the Turkey government, in making sure that they supervise so that a quality work is done. Here, people have been stealing from us. So what they did is they gave us a lot of maram, and then they give us what we used to call in high school a 32-page mattress kind of a tarmac road. So when the water came, because the roads were not built very well, it was washed away as I sent the photos to Ndu. So this is a failure by the people in power. This is a failure by the people who are holding those contracts. Partly the contractors are also to be blamed because there is so much corruption involved of payment of either 10% or 20%. The roads, the contractors have to make money, so they have to do shoddy work. So year in, year out, for the last 6 years, the story of Northern Kenya has been the same. I believe today, if anyone, I'm lucky to report from this side, but who is reporting from Kapedo, who is reporting from Lomelo, who is reporting from Suguta Valley and Baragoi, those roads are even worse. So my brother, Mandera had no electricity for almost a week because Kenya Power, the people in charge here, Nairobi and Garissa, could not plan to have at least some storages so that in the event there rains, we can run Mandera town for a month. This is a border town. So it borders Ethiopia and Somalia. The hospital had issues with the lab. There were issues of people having dialysis. My friend's father had to be taken to a private hospital. So currently, what I'm fearing is even for the poor people to suffer of starvation. So this is a failure of the national government and partly the leaders from Northern. I'm not going to blame today Ruto. We have 3 governors. We have 18 members of parliament elected. We have 90 MCAs. We have a group of almost 50, 60 elected leaders from this part of the world. The problem is none of them travels by road. They all take, either choppers. They borrow military planes from Duale. They pay 25,000 to travel from Mandera to Nairobi. The poor Holipoloi, the polity of parts of this country, especially the north of Kenya, these problems, they are going to have it. I told you, Eric, we will have this discussion every day. We will talk a lot. Ruto and his, cabals will steal from Kenyans. They will tell us a lot of stories. Come back, the story will be the same.
As it is right now, and thank you very much for sharing with us exactly how those issues are looking like. Those areas that are flooded, where are people seeking refuge? Are there high grounds? Is it schools? Is it under trees? Is it hospitals? And how are they being taken care of? Are they getting any sort of relief?
Like in Mandera, people have and people who've affected in Mandera, these are people in permanent structures. So they're not in thatch-made houses or traditional houses. Most of them are in permanent structures. So they either go in places, I don't know whether the county now has opened a refugee camp or an IDP camp. What's affected is Elwak town. Elwak town is affected because there is failure of water drainage system. Now, the county government and the national government are supposed to start these things from the bottom. So that they tell the people, you have 2 options. We either design this town to have a drainage system where we're going to put culverts that are going to take water out of this town to either, drain it in a dam or somewhere, because people in northern Kenya need this water. They need to be harvested. We are not harvesting water because the plan to harvest water requires research. It requires experts to come. They require experts to do, assessments in different parts. Then from there, we look for money either through World Bank or European Union or Africa Development Bank. The last 13 years in Mandera have been suggesting that people in northern Kenya, the leaders should just visit the Dutch embassy. Remember what happened to Holland in 1954. Amsterdam was underwater. But today, so they are among the best countries in management of water can be managed. It just requires competent people who will do quality work. And I told them, when you go to Dutch embassy, tell them do the work. Do not give it to the Kenyan government and do not give it to the northern leaders, because they're going to steal. They do shoddy work, and the intention of having harvested is just going to be wasted like the roads we're building. So Elwak is affected. Majority of these people will just look for high ground in places. They are bit like Elwak. I've been watching videos of Elwak residents complaining, where there's no much places they have been taken. So the people themselves will collect some paper bags and clothes and look for sticks and, take their kids somewhere. So currently, we have told 9 people have died, as reported by Red Cross. A lot of other people, like where my father is, my sister, who was in labor, could not travel for 3 days because the road was flooded. So she had to wait for the water to subside, and then you can imagine a young girl in labor for 3 days, and the nurse there cannot help. Just imagine the far-fetched areas in part of northern Kenya, in more than 22 counties, where the government cannot access deliberately. Because, Eric, I want to tell you, this government takes KCPE and KCSE to every corner of this country.
Well, clearly.
When it comes to IEBC, we have, stations or IEBC polling stations everywhere in this country. We have chiefs everywhere in this country. We have AP posts everywhere in this country. Why is it difficult for government to reach poor people during disasters? But during election, even if there is rain, like now, 3 choppers there were 3-4 accidents in northern Kenya. These are choppers that were either transporting food or KCPE. So the person who lost his head because of poor management of the arena of the helicopter, who was from Rivatana, I think was a deputy head teacher, he was transported through the waters through a cannon, a canoe. The same helicopter could not take a government
take
staff.
The body for burial.
Take the same body. The accident was caused by the same chopper. So the pilot and the leaders could not decide and say, now that this guy has died here, paperwork will be handled later. Let us take the head and the body to a mortuary in Tana River so that the parents and the relatives do not struggle of again transporting, this body from here. The cops, they left with their chopper, went back as if nothing happened. The body was taken, through the waters using traditional boats. That is the sad reality of this country.
Abdullahi, I saw the CS for Defense, Ednah, was in Elwak, I think on Monday or Tuesday. But then for the people who are suffering right now, because currently there are people who are not in their homes. And those people need support. They are not in their homes because their homes were flooded in. Now, of course, they were not able to rescue very many things. So they don't have a change of clothes. They don't have mattresses. They don't have utensils. They need a lot of support in just getting by on a daily basis. To the best of your knowledge, what kind of support are they getting? Are they getting food rations? First of all, are they properly housed in areas that are no longer raining? Do they have a roof over their head? Do they have a blanket at least on which to sleep on? Do they have blankets to cover themselves with? Do they have a change of clothes, at least warm clothing? Do they have access to safe drinking water? Do they have access to food, at least a square meal or 2 a day? Do they have that?
Eric, those things are luxury in northern Kenya. The only thing you should talk about is neither have they gotten some food ration. Maybe the best the county gives sometimes is rice, oil, and some maize. The people or IDPs don't get those things most of the time. I've spoken to some people this morning, and I was speaking to them yesterday. I saw county executive committee members led by the deputy governor yesterday having meetings. The last 2 days they have been dealing with, spreadsheets where they are putting the names, the IDs, and those things. Mandera municipality is doing some work, but so far there is no food that has been distributed. I don't know of Elwak. Duale came with some drugs because he was also with the governor of Mandera and Wajir. They brought some food and some medicine in garis in Wajir. Then the plane that brought the items, whether the food items and the medicine, was big, so it could not land in Elwak. So they had to take another plane. Currently, what I know that is happening is from the complaint of the citizens I've watched online done by the local media, nothing much has happened. It's identifying where are Yesterday there was a list. I saw the ward administrators and the sub-county administrators having a list of the number of toilets that were affected, the number of people whose houses are flooding. So you will see that there has been a very poor planning. And then what has made everything very bad and made people a bit to relax is the reckless utterances of the president saying that there was no El Nino. That was a very, very reckless statement. The president will have asked those guys to give us appropriate information so that people are prepared. Kenya in northern Kenya, like the roads, the other failure is why is the military not being used for these emergencies? Why are the military people in the camps? Kenya was not involved in war, as in with a country except Al-Shabaab, since 1987 when I was in Busia. So we have relatively a very good number of trained military men who have some bridges to come to like emergency to help people. We don't see anything happening from the national government apart from the deputy president saying we have released funds for the county. That's a lie. I spoke to my sources in Mandera County government. The last time they got money was in August, and that money was used to pay salaries.
Yeah.
They only got like 700 million or less than that. So September, October, November, I have sources at the banks. I have sources at the control of budget. I have friends working in treasury. There has been no money released to the counties from September, October, November. So President Ruto and Gachagua are lying to the faces of this country. I was in the bank yesterday. I spoke to people. I was in the Ministry of Treasury, spoke to those people. I had seen some executive members. So nothing much has happened because when Ruto said there is no El Nino, I think some of the money is going to be, was supposed to be, used for development. Now they need to have a supplementary budget apart from maybe the money that was budgeted for emergencies. The rest have to, if they are going to reallocate items within the budget.
I can tell you for sure, Alas, the supplementary budget was passed in Parliament just this week. Okay? And the conversation around how much more is needed to go into addressing this particular emergency did not happen. So that supplementary budget is already out of Parliament. It's only awaiting presidential assent. And unless the president sends it back with, for amendment. Yeah, for amendment saying, okay, no, I disagree. I think we should consider this and the other.
There's no stop.
Then that's it. There is no more money, sufficient money allocated in the supplementary budget to address what we are seeing. 33 counties in the country that are facing this serious issue, more than 80,000 families, and it's across the country. What pains me more is to look at the profile of the counties that are affected. These are the counties in the ASAL areas. These are the counties that are historically marginalized in this country. These are the counties that have not had infrastructure development. These are the counties that have not had a government being quick to respond to their cries, whether it's insecurity, whether it's drought, whether it's locusts, and now this one, you can see the cavalier attitude with which a deputy president can say, we have released 10 billion shillings, knowing full well they haven't. Or asking governors, spare some of your money, knowing full well that they haven't even released the equitable share of money. Or a president not even uttering one word about the people who are suffering. Or no member of cabinet, apart from now what we saw Duale doing, the other members of cabinet, quiet. Let's take a break though. Alas, just stay on the line. We'll continue this conversation shortly after we take a look at the weather. But as we go to this break, just listen to what the Deputy President said on Tuesday when he was in Mombasa.
Dera na Wagarissa wamenunua chakula na madawa. Nimetoa madege, watu wanapelekewa chakula kila pahali. Sisi katika serikali kuu tutajaribu kununua chakula, lakini tunataka pia county government of Mombasa, gavana wewe pia utoe pesa ununue chakula, hawa wananchi wapewe. Tumekubaliana? Na hatutaki governor yeyote kulaumu serikali kuu, ati serikali kuu haitoi chakula. Hata wewe governor uko na pesa. Kama watu wanakufa, hiyo pesa unaweka kwa benki, fanya kazi gani? Pesa yote saa hii kila gavana katika Kenya, pahali watu wameadhirika, wasimamishe kazi zote, wanunulie watu chakula na blanketi na madawa.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Safaricom has introduced a youth platform which is giving customers freedom to choose what products they prefer, how much to spend, and surprisingly, even the validity period. Join me, Yolanda Mulwa, and DJ Absolute every weekday from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock to find out more. Get hooked and tap into Vision Yako. Connect, grow, and do more.
It's partly cloudy in Nairobi, drizzle still coming down, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 24 in a mostly sunny Nakuru. At this point, it will be overcast shortly. Mostly sunny at 18, and then a chance of overcast later with drizzles, highs of 24 and lows of 16 in Nyeri. It's cloudy at 16 in Eldoret, and we're looking into cloudy conditions at 27 in Mombasa. Malindi is also partly cloudy at 27. And looking into Kisumu, mostly cloudy at 24 with cloudy conditions at 22 in Kakamega, going to highs of 28. Kampala is partly sunny now at 21, and it's mostly cloudy at 24 in Dar es Salaam. We're looking into a sunny Johannesburg at 23, and out into Mogadishu, rain showers at 27 continue, and it's sunny at 15 in Addis Ababa. It's cloudy at 26 in Lagos, and we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. Out in Beijing, it's warming up at 2 degrees now, highs of 4 and lows of -6, and into Thursday. Paris is cloudy at 8 and London is cloudy at 11. It's still Wednesday night in New York at 10 degrees. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 13 and lows of 5.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We're talking about what we are seeing and witnessing in the country. More than 30 counties, 33 counties from the last count by the Kenya Red Cross. More than 80,000 families affected. Many, more than 10,000 that have been displaced, moved out of their homes, living somewhere in makeshift camps, needing all the support that they can get. And the weatherman has said, expect a continuation of this heavy rainfall and more flooding. That means this situation is going to continue.
Yes,
before we continue, tell us about just...
Even if you thought before this you were planning your next adventure, remember that Emirates has something in line for you. One of the best bits really about holidays is flying. And remember, it's not just a destination, it's how you get there. And also, one of the best bits about holidays is food, isn't it? So wouldn't it be great if you could get a taste of your destination before you arrive? On Emirates, you can dine on gourmet meals inspired by regional cuisine. And what better way to toast the start of your holiday than with your choice of free-flowing drinks? And of course, you can expect world-class service along every step of your journey from Emirates' award-winning cabin crew. So wherever you decide to fly, fly better on Emirates.
Indeed. So we've continuing our conversation, and Abdullahi Alas is still on the line. He's in Mandera. He's flooded out. He's basically telling us about the areas that are completely affected. Mandera, a border town, has been without power for how long now again, Mohammed Abdullahi?
It came back yesterday, part one, like for the past almost a week, about 4 or 5 days. About an entire week without power in this particular area. And it's not just the only one. We're hearing about Elwak, of course. The other day we were having a conversation with Eldas MP, Adan Kainan. He was saying his county headquarters, Eldas, everybody is living in an internal refugee camp because it's been affected, which means education affected, healthcare affected, people affected.
I just had a thought, and I'm wondering, so KCSE is still being written.
Yep.
What's happening with that in terms of then folks being able to move around? I think it's important. Alas, has it been halted? What's going on with this? Because they're very.
But you see, the students are already in school, so the government, most of the schools are not that affected, and if they are, there has not been report where schools are flooded to an extent where they can't do KCC. I don't know well work. But you see, Eric talked about supplement. That's for the national government.
Mm-hmm.
County government budgets, for them to reallocate funds from
they also need
development, they also need supplementary. And that takes time, because if you look at the county regulation of 2016, Section 40 talks about if in the event that there is allocation of budget items, then the Treasury, CEC Finance need to write a report on what items are going to be reallocated, why are they going to be reallocated, and then take it to the assembly, and then so it's a process.
Yep.
Now, this idea of blaming floods, I am not blaming the rain. I am blaming the leaders of northern Kenya who failed to plan. LWAC only requires waterways and see, where these waters can go. If you have not created passages for the water, they will stay there. There are some towns that don't flood because of their geographical nature. Like I come from Asabito. Asabito town does not necessarily flood because it's surrounded by hills. It's in a hilly place, but the water will still go to the lower part. So there is a failure. And I told you, Eric, these counties don't have people who think. All they do is to do the normal services. They bring drugs, and I told you, they don't ask themselves, why are we allocating 2 billion to health? You need to resolve the question of why people are sick. It's because they don't have food. So what we are saying is that we have a government called Kenya Kwanza, led by the worst thugs we have ever had in this country. When you talk of Kenyatta Senior, when you talk of Moi, when you talk of Kibaki, Uhuru is now an angel. These ones are devil. These two guys have lied to us on our face. They are telling us this and that every day. I told you in the program, you cannot develop a country by high taxes or borrowing loans. You don't do that. What you do is you allow people to work. Currently, people are not withdrawing money through M-Pesa. People are using cash. People are not taking money to bank. Personally, I have not bought ugali. We are grinding the maize we grow in May and June. Because why will you buy ugali when it's expensive, when you can take your maize to the grinder machine and have ugali tradition? So how does he expect people to buy? My car is one of the strongest. And had I had signs that there is a diversion, there was communication, you have seen the road built by the Chinese, it has been washed away. So the whole country is a country that few people are doing. The embarrassment of Murkomen yesterday in the Senate, when he was asked, why do people have to walk for 50 meters from the rain? It's just people in the airport are not thinking. What they would have done is by the time the pilot puts off the plane, they bring a bus. How hard is that? You just bring a bus that is capacity of 50, you take Kenyans, you have some, what do you call these, umbrellas? Maybe Kenya Airways can have them, or the airport can have like 200, umbrellas, so that you help if they're elderly. You have wheelchairs. You don't have thinkers in this country. They consume a lot of food. They have very big brains on the back of their heads. They have very big stomach. They sit on the chair the whole day. They are collecting money from perfumes and pants. This one is supposed to be taxed. Then you have Murkomen coming to the Senate and telling us there's this and that. So unless we Kenyans, and I told you before, we will have this discussion 20 years to come. Why? The policy we are using, the model of government we have, how does a deputy president say we have released the money? Where? September, October, November. People have not received the money. You have seen Vinya Wandeti. You have seen the guy from Kisii. The MP from the governor from Kisii.
Abdullahi, these statements coming, and yet not a properly coordinated or released statement. There's money that has been released. Governors say, no, we haven't received any money. nobody is saying, so this is what we are doing with what we have, because there was an emergency allocation in the budget for the county. There's an emergency allocation in the budget for national level. We have a National Drought Management Authority plus the Kenya Met plus others, and they are coordinating this. And then there's a Kenya Red Cross with the support that they bring in. But there's no communication on exactly the people that are suffering. And this is just across the country. The photo in the Standard on page 2 has Wilkista Adhiambo and Mary Atieno, who are waiting for relief at Nyamasao Primary School in Nyando after their homes were flooded. They are seated on the floor, bare feet, and you can see the only thing that Mary Atieno is holding is just one bag. She has nothing else. Her home was flooded.
It's gone.
It looks like she just walked out with this. She has just her muddy
on her
feet.
back. Yeah.
No shoes on, sitting down on the floor. And these are the people who are waiting for some sort of coordinated relief for them. They have a right to get some sort of relief. Now, they cannot just be sitting here waiting for their government to come in and give them some relief. The government will come and give them, everybody, maybe a unga or a kagorogoro of rice, and maybe a blanket like this brought by the Kenya Red Cross. But then, so what? Because even after this, they will require support to rebuild their homes.
And where they will sleep tonight and tomorrow night and the night after that also needs to come in a coordinated fashion. The question is, where is this place that they're waiting? No, let's look at it.
They're in some classroom in the school.
Some school somewhere. Do you know that there's... Where will they be for the next couple of days? Where will they be for the next week? Let's say now, and this is the thing, we use many things essentially to come right round back to the same thing and say, in terms of a strategy, coordination plan, to make sure that those who have suffered the brunt of this thing will actually be supported to survive until things settle down. This is the reason why information is shared. I don't believe Kenya Met or any meteorological department around the world gives this information so that you can plan where you're going to have a picnic under a tree somewhere. No. So that you know this is what is coming, and you use that information to then be able to plan. And that was the point of all of this. So here we are. And you know what, CT, I remember a couple of months you said something, you said, we're going to get into a situation whereby we're just going to be looking at ourselves again and saying, why didn't we do? Why didn't we? It's going to be another sing-song of woulda, shoulda, couldas. And why didn't we say, for example, like Alas is saying, waterways? Because this is the thing. Why does water pool? Because it has no outlet. Something as simple as that. That you know that this is the natural progression. When water will come into this area, this is how it is going to go. That is where you put your outlet, so that it may then go and run off. That was not done. We have places where, because of the drought, there has been packed soil. It has been dust, it has packed. That's another reason then when you have pools of water. I'm not an engineer, but how do I know? It's basic. And you know that is what is going to happen. So what was happening in terms of removing soil that had packed over the last 1 year? That's what we talk about when we talk about mitigation efforts.
And I think also, it goes further. You see, when we say that Kenya Met issued a warning, okay? And they said, expect flooding. Now, I hear what Abdullah you're saying, we lack thinkers and all. But also you need some level of other conversation that should have happened. And that's where the national coordination team should have come in and said, all right, so this is how we map out the area. This is what Kenya Met is saying. Expect flooding in these areas and these areas. What is the topography of here? What is it that you need to do? So here you need this kind of engineering. Here you need this kind of engineering. Here you need this kind of support. For all of you, you need to establish, remember like in COVID, we had said schools, identify schools which can be used as makeshift hospitals in the event we run out of hospital bed space. Identify this. Had we identified schools that could be used as shelters? Had we made sure that those schools then also cannot be flooded? Had we made sure that, all right, we have warned people, this area that you live in, you're likely to get flooded out. This is what you do. All those things, if there was proper coordination at national, then you'd say, this is the map as we see it. And we are sending engineers to come to you, Governor so-and-so in Mandera, you, Governor so-and-so in Marsabit, you, Governor so-and-so. They are coordinating with you and telling you exactly what to do where. And so you do it. You allocate resources, and this is what happens. A lack of that, it means that even the local guys are just thinking, okay, so it's going to rain.
Why are we taking this discussion far? How is it then that we right now are having a conversation about releasing KCPE exams? Because the process of that exam was coordinated.
Everybody knows.
And those who were we knew ahead of time the date. We knew the school. Everything about it was known.
Yeah.
That is the reason why we've been able to now come to a point where the results are actually being presented.
And early.
Yes.
And early than was initially stipulated.
Yes.
Because of the thing you're saying, CT.
Yes. This
From
is
a central point,
yes,
everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing. The resources were allocated for that thing to happen.
The marking was coordinated, everything, and people knew ahead of time where they were going to go, when the marking was going to take place. Everything has taken place. We have results. When we had a disaster, we had a COVID. Coordination, we saw it. You were told. There were hiccups, but you were told, yes, there's a hiccup, this was going to happen. We are going to do this. Go to this place. If not, go here. And it's communicated to you. We are not new to coordination in this country.
Okay, let me ask a question.
Yes.
Is it possible? Is it because maybe?
Ask the question.
Maybe we don't have enough. Maybe there's not enough in terms of people who can then advise.
No.
On what, wait now.
No.
Because I don't understand. There must be something.
No.
Maybe there are not enough in terms of experts who can advise. Because you know where I've talked about water pools because there are no adequate water.
There is no leader in this country who just arrived here yesterday.
I'm trying to find something because
they were born here, they've been living here. Everything we're talking about has been happening when they're here.
There's nothing.
There's got to be
there's nothing.
If there's nothing, then it's even worse. If there's actually nothing, no reason that you can point to say that this did not happen because of 1, 2, 3.
There is
because
nothing.
Of inadequate source of expertise, inadequate source of resources, whatever.
Well, actually, there's something.
Okay, there had to be.
Bad attitude.
Bad manners, it's true.
Not even manners.
Attitude. It's the thinking.
To many of these leaders, the people like Abdullahi Alas and his neighbors in Mandera are few, they are inconsequential when it comes to the grand scheme of things of what we consider as important.
They are not
Votes
important.
And all.
They are not important.
That's why there's a drought going on for many years. How many people now? 2.5 million people are facing drought. Okay, that number is rising to 3 million. Okay, we shall set aside 6 billion shillings, but we only have 1 billion. We shall look for money.
Okay.
The rains will come. Now it's flooding. Yeah, we have released money. You see, the governor of Garissa has put in money. He's doing things. Why can't the other governors do the same? Everything should stop in terms of development. Yet the man who's saying this has just allocated his office some more millions of shillings.
No,
to build a pavilion.
Bro, it's billions. The allocation was on the
3.2 billion.
Yes, exactly.
Billion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but everything is not stopping at the national level. Everything should stop at
the county level.
Yes,
Stop your development at the county level and divert some of that fund to feed your people or to put up makeshift shelter for them. But you want to build a pavilion and have meetings.
If you wanted to give an example of leadership that is out of touch with the reality in their country, you have it right there. It's staring at you. It's even talking to you.
So that's the something.
That's the something.
That's the something then. Because it's not for lack of expertise.
How can you have such a cavalier attitude towards this disaster, this thing that we have?
My God in heaven.
For the first time, Eric.
Yep.
For the first time in my life, I thought of becoming an economical immigrant to Europe.
Wow.
For the first time. Because when my car fell into the ditch in the morning, even my whole documents were affected by the water because it's a bit deep. I went to Kera offices in Mandera and asked them to help me and then I can pay the fuel. They told me they need 120,000.
To do what?
To help me bring the car out of the water.
Wait. And what are they using to bring the car out of the water?
The same machine I use that belongs to Kera.
Okay, the earth mover.
The earth mover, yes.
120,000 shillings was for what exactly?
Yeah, he said there is a fuel alafu hiyo ingine ni yetu. The brown envelope thing.
Kwani fuel
ingine ni yao.
120,000. So for the first time, I have worked in Somalia for over 10 years. I was shot at in Mogadishu. I came back to this country. I bought that car with my money, and I've traveled from Nairobi in defiance of paying 25,000. We have used, with a friend, close to that 5,000 to pay the transport, and I've traveled for 24 hours. For the first time, I sat somewhere, and I started looking the opportunities of me going to either Canada or Holland and with my family. Because my grandfather faced the same problem for 60 years. My father faced the same problem for 60 years. He is now 70 years old. I told you, I've been working for the last 15, 20 years, paying taxes. I remember one time my tax, the deduction of my salary was like 45,000 a month. And as I was paying that, everything I bought, passport, I paid 7,000 shillings. ID, I paid like 3,000 or 2,000 shillings then because there was corruption of committee. Primary certificate, KCSE, I paid money. So literally, everything in this country I paid for, yet I am not getting any service. The Kenya officers in Mandera could just put a sign, road closed, take the diversion. My car will be safe today.
And even if you actually ended up in that situation, they ought to come and help you get your vehicle off.
They built that
road. They don't see it as their role, you see. So imagine if that is happening to me, the airport you're seeing that is leaking water. That's happening to me with a car. Imagine what's happening to Kenyans in poor areas.
Our time is up, but we thank you very much for speaking to us today. And pole sana to you, to your neighbors, to your family, and everybody else.
Yeah, I'll call you from Canada or Netherlands one day.
Don't worry, Abdullah. We are going to talk to you soon. We do not want you to immigrate just yet. Let's give it 10 more years, then we'll talk about it, okay?
Nothing is going to change.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Well, have a lovely day, people. It's 10 a.m. See you again tomorrow.